Evening. All right. If I could ask everyone to take their seats, please. We're going to get started. Sorry for a little bit of delay. I'd like to welcome everyone to our June 17th, 2025 full board meeting of Manhattan Community Board 11. My name is Xavier Santiago. I'm the chair of Community Board 11. This meeting is officially called to order at 6:43 p.m. Tonight, we're joined by District Manager Angel Muscane, Assistant District Manager Khalid Nixon, and Community Liaison Marlene Pierre. Before we jump into a few ground rules, I want to again welcome those new board members who did not join us last month. Thank you so much for being here and jumping in feet first. And I also want to acknowledge that this week we celebrate Juneteenth. So as part of our mired history throughout America, we see we can right the wrongs as we go along. So now we'll jump into the rules. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe the ground rules. 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. 2, CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty there. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. 3, the chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should be only used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address and phone number that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. 4, when a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you may unmute yourself so you may speak, or you may stand to rise so you may speak here in the room, but we will ask you to come to the mics to speak for the record. 5, please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion or agenda topic. 6, members of the public can register to speak in the public session by completing the pre-registration form and providing their name, affiliation, and what topic they wish to speak about. A link to the registration form has been shared in the chat, and there is a form to sign up outside at the front lobby. Registration for the public session needs to be concluded by 7:15 p.m. And with that, we will now call the roll.
Good evening, everyone. Please listen to your names. I will be calling you twice. Jose Altamirano, Fernando Alvarez, Marcel Bondima, absent. Adem Brija, yeah, I saw him. Marie Charles, thank you. Leslie Colon, thank you. Kenneth Crouch, present. Thank you. Carlos Diaz, absent. Rosa Diaz is myself. Jessica Elliott, thank you. David Giordano, thank you. Ida Usari, thank you. James Gray, thank you. John Green,
here.
Thank you. Chancellor Gregg, thank you. Pascal Hanu, thank you. Wanda Hopkins, absent. Kyoka Jackson, absent. Christina Johnson, Jewel Jones,
Here.
James Kemp,
Here.
Thank you. Sage Mason, absent. Malik McCullough, Robert Maginty,
Here.
sorry. Jennifer Meyer,
Here.
thank you. Jessica Morris, thank you. Hayward Mutun, thank you. Nilsa Orama, thank you. Beverly Pabon, thank you. Samantha Pedreiro,
Present.
thank you. Carlene Percy, absent. Tanya Phelps, absent. Marina Phillips, thank you. Valerie Ponti, thank you. Asha Rodriguez, absent. Dawn Sanders,
Here.
you. Xavier Santiago, Janelle Satija, thank you. Isaac Scott, absent. Russell Schuller, absent. Loretta So, absent. Derek Stampone, thank you. Vincent Torres, absent. Anne-Marie Vasquez, Marie Vasquez, absent. Jason Villanueva. Jason Villanueva, absent. Candy Vives Vasquez. Candy Vives Vasquez. Nye Whitaker. Nye Whitaker. Absent. Agatha White.
Present.
You. Michelle Walter Clemens. Thank you. Jason Wu. Jason Wu, absent. Roll call then.
We have quorum. All right. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time before the board office and was posted online. There was one addition, and there will be one more. We have a presentation from the MTA with the upcoming ULURP. And also to Nilsa Rama, our chair of our elections committee, will be speaking about the replacement of the treasurer role, the latter part. With those two changes, are there no objections? We'll adopt the agenda. Board members, if you wish to object, just raise your hand. Okay, seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. We will now move on to our pre-registered speakers, 3 minutes each. A few ground rules for those wishing to speak. 1, you must sign up to give testimony, providing your name and affiliation. 2, you will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Please state your phone and email up front. 2 minutes to speak and reserve a minute for questions from our board members. A timer will be up as an aid. 3, you should address your testimony to the board, not the public. 4, you should speak clearly and into the microphone. 5, you should be prepared to respond to board members who may ask questions in order to clarify facts and opinions presented in your comments. 6, if required, the chair will remind you of the time or concluding remarks. Again, reminder, board members should only ask clarifying questions. Commentary will not be entertained. And first up, has anyone signed up from the public here in the space? Okay. In the meantime, is Roberta Brangham on behalf of the residents of East 108th Street? Check here. Roberta Brangham. Let's see in the list. Next, we will go to Destiny Reyes, New York County Defender Service. Okay. All right, Destiny.
Hello? Yes, I'm on Zoom.
Hi, you have your 3 minutes.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So hello everyone, I'm Destiny Reyes. I'm part of New York County Defender Services. I'm an intern, community engagement intern. We just have a upcoming event. It's going to be on next week, the June 24th at 6 p.m. It's going to be at 701 Fort Washington Avenue. And it's going to be a Know Your Rights event, partnered up with Cabrini's office, as well as the attorneys that we have in our office. So it's just a free community presentation on immigration rights. Food and beverages will be provided, and I can send over the flyer via email. If anybody has questions, my email is intern11@nycds.org.
Okay, great. Are there any board member questions? Yes, Kenneth. So that mic right there as well.
Hi, Destiny. This is Kenneth, community board member. Just a very brief question. Does the Know Your Rights training have like ICE specific or ICE geared training module, something that's kind of more tailored to the needs in our community? And yeah, would that sort of need be met?
Yeah, so to my understanding, we have a full presentation on the encounterments that individuals will have with ICE, excuse me, or NYPD. And at the end, there will be availability for anybody who has like one-on-one questions that the attorneys can take on the side.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other board member questions? Seeing that there are none, thank you very much for being with us, Destiny.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, going back to Roberta Brangham. Okay. And seeing that she's not present, we next have Maria. Maria? Where's Maria? Maggie, sorry, the way it was written. Maggie? Yes, okay. All right.
You're calling on me, Xavier?
Sí, lo siento mucho.
I'm so-
porque-
Que me perdonas, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, everyone. This is Maggie McDermott. I'm here to report on,
Yeah,
Ok,
no,
buenas tardes. Más que
for
todo,
the publicly registered speakers still.
más que todo es lo que vengo yo a que me tengan que aclarar, ayudar y arreglar una solicitud que se hizo, una petición. Se presentó un formulario a Landmark, la solicitud de Landmark para mi jardín de Maggie's Magic Garden, sin que yo haya firmado y ni conocía que se presentó esa solicitud. Necesito, por favor, una explicación lo más clara posible y tratando de solucionar ese rechazo que hizo Landmark para mi jardín.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm trying to.
Yeah, this is Maggie from Maggie Magic's Garden. I'm here to clarify a solicitation that I did that was presented without me knowing about it and or even signed by me. I want an explanation and also to resolve the rejection that was done to my garden.
Okay. Kenneth, would you like to get up and address? So yeah. So we have the vice chair of land use committee here. So
So, hi, Maggie. It's good to see you and thank you for coming in. Yeah, I guess someone will translate. So,
I'm ready.
okay. So, our board provided a letter of support. We did everything we could do. Unfortunately, because we are not the city's landmarks committee, we don't have the power to landmark a garden in the same way. However, we're happy to continue conversations with you about other ways that we can protect the garden, even though we don't have the power to landmark the garden. And we do still support the aims of protecting the garden as a whole.
Buenas noches, señora. ¿Gusta en verla? Nosotros hicimos la carta, pero no tenemos el poder para aprobarla. El alma rechazó la aplicación, pero nosotros estamos aquí para ayudarla.
Pero si tienen el rechazo que Landmark puso que no está aprobado, ¿cómo? ¿Cómo presentaron? Yo ni lo conocía. La primera reunión que tuvimos, que incluso nos han fallado y me han dicho que no estaba Landmark, ahí se quedó y nunca más he tenido respuesta. Nosotros estábamos preparando para presentar la aplicación. ¿Y cómo es que Community Board presenta? Ni me deja conocer.
So she wants to know why did the community present that paper to Landmark without her knowing about it. She has all the papers to present it to Landmark, but you guys didn't even let her know.
Yeah.
would you please spell?
Oh, he knows Spanish.
Spanish.
I'm gonna do it in English.
Thanks.
It's very important that everybody understand, because this was just said in English, okay? That the community board was approached by the supporters of Maggie's Magic Garden regarding their concern for the future of their garden. There is construction adjacent to their garden. So they were concerned about the impact of that construction on their garden and the permanence of their garden. They came to the meeting, I believe, in Mass 1 month, right? And it was explained after a couple of months of conversations about this garden that there is no risk to the garden because it is a green thumb garden. In other words, if you're not a green thumb garden and you're an HPD owned lot, for example, you could be subject to redevelopment. If you have a green thumb designation, there's nothing going to happen to your garden. Okay, and that's very important to state for folks that are concerned. They have a right to be concerned if they don't know. This was explained. Okay, further, there was an interest expressed in landmarking the garden. So we investigated and found out that there's such a thing as a scenic landmark designation issued by the Landmarks Preservation Commission. This was explained to the group at the meeting. And it was explained that anyone can submit a request for investigation by the LPC as to whether a site or a building can be thus designated. That was explained. What the community board did was issue a letter to the LPC asking for them to look into it. And it was in response to that the LPC responded with their finding that this garden does not meet the criteria for such designation. It does not require a letter or a signature from Ms. Maggie at all. This was a letter by the community board. It also does not keep Ms. Maggie or anybody else that's advocating for their garden to submit their own request at all. And this has been explained, but evidently not heard. I tried again this evening to explain it, and it wasn't heard. It is very dangerous for the community board's reputation for things to be said and misunderstood that do not actually reflect the actual conversation. I hope that clarifies it.
In Spanish?
Try to explain it in Spanish.
Down.
Yeah. Jessica Morris, a question?
Question for you, okay?
Tiene una pregunta para usted, señor.
Would, is there interest in continuing the dialogue with the community board about future support for your application to landmarks? Given that there may have been a misunderstanding initially.
La señorita Jessica Morris dice,
Un poquito más fuerte me puedo.
la señorita Jessica Morris dice que si usted tiene un interés en seguir la conversación sobre cualquier comunicación que usted no haya entendido. El manager de Ángel le explicó ahorita la situación que estaba pasando. No sé si usted le entendió que nosotros no hicimos ninguna aplicación por usted, nada más una carta para ver si es que en realidad es y averiguando. No hicimos ninguna aplicación. Si usted desea hacer la aplicación, usted puede obtener todos los documentos y mandar la aplicación. Pero cualquier cosa, yo voy a estar aquí, yo le puedo explicar.
No, mira, yo entiendo que quieran ayudar. No me lo comunican, pero aún así, si lo hicieron de buena fe, gracias. Pero aún así, ¿con qué documentos presentaron? Los documentos los tengo yo.
Nosotros no presentamos documento más que una carta de apoyo.
Por eso, es una carta de apoyo solamente. La solicitud debería de ir conmigo más.
Nosotros no
Ok,
hicimos.
está bien. Por eso, la rechazaron, la marca rechazado, ¿no es cierto? Aún haya sido solo la carta. Esa es mi molestia, porque primero no me han permitido conocer que estaban presentando. Entiendo la política que tenga que funcionar en el comité, pero lo más correcto, si lo que nosotros queremos hacer, no solo yo, sino mis voluntarios también, es por preservar ese lugar para la comunidad, que no destruya la construcción ese lugar, porque ahora, mañana mismo tenemos una reunión donde vienen a cortar árboles y ya cortaron 2 árboles más antes, con autorización de Green Thumb. Ahora estoy peleando que no tenían ese derecho, porque ese jardín, si nadie lo sabe, yo lo he hecho. Yo lo he limpiado desde un inicio con mi trabajo y mi dinero. Entonces nadie tiene derecho a autorizar a destruir ese lugar.
Sí,
Por eso es que protesto y reniego. Y no es
entiendo.
justo que nadie quiera trabajar a título mío y querer destruir ese lugar.
Exacto, como el señor Ángel estaba explicando, el jardín está protegido por Green Thumb. So, cualquier árbol que se haya quitado se va a volver a poner. ¿Me entiende?
Rosa.
Nosotros no hemos hecho una
Ya.
aplicación por usted.
En forma legal les explico ya así de cortito. Green Thumb no está protegiendo. Está recibiendo el dinero. van a recibir 100,000. Ya lo han recibido incluso. Cuando tenga que reponer los árboles, cada árbol a lo mucho va a valer 80, 100. Yo les he puesto $250. Son 4 árboles, $1,000 solamente, 100,000 se ha depositado. ¿Qué pasa con el resto del dinero?
Sí, le voy a hablar ahora en la esquinita, ¿ok,
Ok.
señora?
Gracias a usted.
Que lo que yo único que estoy viendo he dicho, si bien no se arregla, a mí no me importa cómo me va a costar, pero voy a ir por la vía legal, porque no es justo que tengan que actuar y autoridades que deben de protegerme y ayudarme no lo hacen.
Ok, con respeto, con respeto.
Y gracias.
Rosa, ayuda. Ella, ok, gracias. Okay, bueno, we're going to, yeah, we're going to move along now to our publicly registered speakers. Give me just a moment. Everyone here, and thank you, Angel, for clarifying. We have fought vociferously for those that are new to the board from all of our green spaces, and a green thumb space is protected. That's a fact. Now, for those that have a little bit of history, yes, Angel. Okay, yeah. So there's ongoing construction with the Everhard development in that space where Children's Aid used to be, and that's been a bit of an issue. And I can tell you that the district manager and I have spent a lot of time even looking at the lot lines, the surveys, the concerns about the trees, the tap roots. We've gone exhaustively in support of this. I wanted to be abundantly clear that, you know, we're exploring all options, but the green thumb is a protected status, and we still continue to fight. And we've been reaching out to the developer to make sure that those commitments are maintained. So with that, Angel, I'm gonna.
Yeah, it's hard to understand when you don't listen. And I'm going to come off as aggressive on this, but it's just unfair to continue to receive, you know, all kinds of accusations made towards the board. The garden submitted a package of letters and bios about the garden. It was explained in the meeting repeatedly that we would be receiving those things and submitting them with our letter of inquiry to the Landmarks Preservation Commission. And that is exactly what was done. So the suggestion that it wasn't done with their approval or their knowledge is just not factually accurate. It is inaccurate. Should you have heard that and not heard my explanation, you might have thought the community board did something to the garden, when the opposite is the truth. We are trying to support the garden as much as we possibly can. Community gardens are on lots. Lots have lines. There is a question as to whether the garden was operating outside of the lines that they're supposed to be operating in. Unbeknownst to them, it was an abandoned garden. I mean, an abandoned lot for many years. And they, much to their credit, you know, brought it to life and made it an oasis. But they may have unknowingly gone over the lot line. Okay. If there's one thing you know in this country is you don't play with real estate. You can't go over the line. So there may have been an overstepping of the line of the lot line, and there may have been certain, you know, trees removed for, you know, reasons of, you know, proximity to the construction site. That we don't know, because there was a surveyor that went to the Maggie's Magic Garden, and the community board was not invited to attend and be present and be witness to what was found. Subsequent to that, there hasn't been any report to the community board, so that we know for a fact where the line was determined to actually be and what, if any, reasons were given for the removal of any trees. So we're working with the information that we have. I understand that the operators of the garden are very impassioned. They should be very proud. We're very proud of their work. But to say that we're doing anything that in any way endangers the garden is not accurate. And as a matter of fact, I submitted the letter. I submit all the letters. So if anybody suggests something wasn't done, it's pointing a finger at me is why I get defensive. I can show you how our letter is accompanied by 21 attachments, all of the documents provided by the garden. We're doing everything we can to protect the garden.
Thank you, Angel. Again, this is something we do fight for, but misinformation abounds, and I appreciate everyone hanging in there so we could clarify that. It's very important. And Nilsa, you know, who was a former chair, We dealt with it then and it comes up. So we do advocate with and along with our staff. So I don't see any other publicly registered speakers. I'm now going to move us along into our local elected officials. If you've not already signed up to speak, we ask that our elected officials or their representatives please alert our staff in the chat if they wish to give a report. We ask that any event or service letter should be sent out to our office so that we may post and share it as is appropriate. Please keep your report to 3 minutes and be mindful not to repeat what others have already mentioned. We recommend 2 minutes for your report and a minute for questions. Are there any elected officials or their representatives here in the room? Seeing none, I will go to Oriana Rivera from Senator Serrano's office. Oriana,
Yes, hello, good evening, everyone.
good evening. All right, you have
Hi,
3
yes,
minutes.
thank you so much. So I'm happy to announce that the state budget include much needed funding to continue investments in environment justice, art and culture, tenant protections, and childcare. I'm gonna mention a few of those. So art funding, it's $84 million in New York State Council of the Arts. For parks funding, $200 million of capital funding of our New York State parks and system. For environmental conservation, that's $500 million of dollars for clean water grants. For social services, there's free school breakfast and lunch for all students. $25 million of for home energy and affordability program. For housing, there is $50 million of dollars for the housing voucher access program and $225 million for NYCHA funding. Also on legislative updates, Senator Serrano is part of sponsor many pieces of legislation and co-sponsor many more. The following are few bills sponsored by Senator Serrano that have been passed by the New York State Senate this session. I'm gonna mention S1376. This bill encourages the expansion of farmers market in New York and improves access to local food by promoting farmers markets in the state park without harming the environment. And S1380A, this bill mandates that all playground equipment in state and municipal parks must be cleaned within 24 hours of pesticide application if the application occurs within a specified minimum distance to protect children from potential exposure to harmful residues. And also in this past April, Senator Serrano and his colleagues joined Community Voices Heard Powered, made consult on housing and tenants and neighbors for a tenant town hall to discuss legislative and budget priorities. Senator Serrano is part of the continues to support legislative initiatives that help to protect tenants' rights and improve access to affordable housing. And last but not least, I want to let you guys know that our upcoming constituent hours will be on Thursday, June 26th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Geiler White Elder Adult Center that is on 2029 2nd Avenue. I'm gonna put our information and I encourage you guys to call our office. We're always open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. I'll put the information in the chat as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Any board member questions? Okay, could you please state your contact information and email and phone number, please?
Absolutely. So again, my name is Oriana Rivera. Our phone number is 212-828-5829. Again, 212-828-5829. And our office is located in 100th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue.
Thank you very much. Next, we have
Thank you.
Maggie McDermott from Deputy Speaker Ayala's office.
Good evening, everybody. First and foremost, happy Juneteenth to everybody on behalf of Deputy Speaker Ayala. Secondly, I want to mention that budget negotiations are still going on within the City Council. The Deputy Speaker is fighting for funds for a new ER at Metropolitan Hospital. She's also fighting alongside colleagues to cover the part of the Esplanade that was not funded, which leaves a gap in between the southern and northern sides of the Esplanade. She also submitted a request for $2 billion to fund NYCHA repairs, along with her colleagues at the City Council. These repairs would not be infrastructural. They would be repairs within the apartments. On June 12th, she hosted, along with Steve Simon, the Chief of Staff for the Commissioner of Parks, the first meeting of the Tom's Dog Run renovations at Thomas Jefferson Park, which Deputy Speaker Ayala funded at $1.3 million. A full discussion amongst community members that were present took place. And of course, the Deputy Speaker and Steve Simon, like I said, were present. Lastly, but extremely important, Homeland Security was within our district today. We need to work diligently together to make sure that our immigrant neighbors are aware and prepared in the event that they come into contact with these officials. She's also hosting the Thomas Jefferson Family Day event was rescheduled. The new date will be, I lost the thing. I can get it to the community board. I'm so sorry. And it is posted on her Instagram. But it was rescheduled due to rain last week. And it will now be, I believe, the following week, not this weekend, but the next weekend. But I will get the information to the community board. I apologize. I have the flyer somewhere. It's not in my stack. Okay, any questions at all?
Any questions? Yes. You can just come up to the mic.
Hi, this is Chancellor Gregg. You stated that DHS was in our district. Are you specifically talking about ICE, and what part of the district were they in?
Okay, unfortunately, I was given a blanket statement and I literally directly read the statement to you from the Deputy Speaker. So I am not sure, but she did say Homeland Security. So I am, in belief that they are the administrative, the feds.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, but I don't know with 100% certainty. So I can definitely ask her, and I'll text her right now, as a matter of fact.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you very much, Maggie. Appreciate it. When Diana, Deputy Speaker, we'll appreciate that information.
I will, for sure. I'll put it in the chat box, okay?
Wonderful. Do we have any other elected officials or their reps? Okay. Seeing that there are none, we'll move on to our Borough President's report. Porfirio Figueroa.
Thank you, Chair Xavier. My name is Porfirio Figueroa. I'm the Deputy Director of Community Affairs for the Manhattan Borough President's Office, Mark Levine. I wanted you to know that Mark Levine, the Borough President, recently urged the Rent Guidelines Board to vote for a rent freeze for rent-stabilized tenants in 2025 after 3 consecutive years of rent increases. The Rent Guideline Board will have final vote on Wednesday, June 25th. The public hearings are ongoing until then, and you can find that at https://rent guidelines board city of New York.us/2025 meetings/. The service constituent services pop-ups we have in partnership with Hudson Guild will be hosting a summer constituent services pop-up on Thursday, June 26th at 2:00 in the afternoon till 4 at Hudson Guild, 119 9th Avenue. The Manhattan Borough President's staff will assist with housing, NYCHA, HPD, social services, SNAP, cash assistance, fair fares, city agency issues like DOB, DOT, DOF, and general city resources. We held our Pride event yesterday at God's Love We Delivered, which we also honored. We gave a proclamation to the center and to George Faison, the great choreographer. On that note, if you wish, anyone from CB11 wishes to march with the borough president in the Pride Parade, you can go to events at manhattanbp.nyc.gov. My email, p.figueroa@manhattanbp.nyc.gom.com, right? So that's And my number 212-669-8300. And that's my
Any
report.
questions? Okay. Seeing that there are none, we will now move along. Thank you. Thank you very much for being with us, Porfirio. All right.
Always my pleasure.
Great. We will now hold a public hearing with the land use applications C250300ZMM and N250301ZRM Metropolitan Transportation Authority at 125th Street and Lexington Avenue in their rezoning. They will, at the conclusion of the presentation, any witness testimony, we will hear the testimony from the public on this topic. Written testimony, which may be submitted by mail to the board office or via email to mn11@cv.nyc.gov. The deadline to submit written testimony is July 2nd. When you do provide testimony, we will ask you that you provide information, that you make sure you follow a few ground rules for the witnesses during that time. 6, you must sign up to give the testimony, providing your name and affiliation. 7, you will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. 8, you should address your testimony to the board and not the public. 9, you should speak clearly and into the microphone. And 10, you should be prepared to respond to board members who may ask questions in order to clarify facts and opinions presented in your testimony. Board members should only ask clarifying questions. Commentary will not be entertained. From now, we will have our presentation from the MTA. Thank you, gentlemen. And we've allotted 15 minutes, but if you finish earlier, that is fine as well. Thank you. This work? Sure. This way? Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Januszewski. I'm a vice president at the MTA's Transit Oriented Development Group, here with John Kirshner, who's going to walk us through the presentation. I just wanted to give a little introduction to the project. If you're not familiar with it, the site we're looking at is on the corner of 125th Street and Lex. It's the former Pathmark location. MTA purchased this from a private developer a few years ago in anticipation of the 2nd Avenue subway construction, the leg of which is under construction now and will be terminating here. So our plans, the MTA's plans, are to begin construction of the 2nd Avenue subway here very shortly. What we're talking about here today is after that work is complete, the MTA will be issuing a request for proposals for a residential project over the 2nd Avenue subway stop. So we're several years ahead of that RFP being released, but given that the 2nd Avenue subway construction is proceeding and that will serve as the base for a future residential building over it, we need to know what type of building that will be, how high it will be, the bulk of it, so that the base we construct can support it. So what we are requesting here today, this is a rezoning that will request an R11 equivalent. The zoning district will be a C11 district, but we expect this to be a residential building operating under R11 zoning requirements, which is a recently established new district that allows 15 FAR residential buildings. So that's the rezoning that we're seeking now. This project is being done by the MTA in support of the 2nd Avenue construction. So proceeds that MTA receives from this future RFP will go towards paying for the construction of the 2nd Avenue subway. And then other than that, I just want to tell you the process. We were certified by city planning on May 19th. It's with the Community Board 11 now for your review. Your period of review runs through the end of July, but I guess you have your own process for receiving public comments. So I'm going to turn it over to John Kirshner, who's managing the process for us, and he'll present the project to you.
Speak into the mic. Sure. Just a heads up, the Zoom box is like right in front of the screen. Like just a heads up. All right. Let them sort that out. Hi guys, my name is John Kirshner. As Paul said, I'm a planner for MTA's Transit Oriented Development Group. If any of you remember Matthew Pietris, he presented this last November, and he's since left the MTA, so we've taken over the project from him. But this is, I think, our third or fourth presentation to community groups and the council groups so far this year, and we look forward to doing many more. So without further ado, we'll get started on our 125th and Lexington rezoning proposal update. Great. I'll go over here, I guess. So if you guys can see, I know the TV is a little small from the back. This is the future Second Avenue subway alignment. As you may be aware with the Second Avenue subway, where the MTA is extending the Q train from 96th Street right now, where it currently ends, up to 125th Street station. There will be 3 new stations that we expect to serve about 300,000 new daily riders, or not new daily riders, 300,000 daily riders. And we expect it'll help save up to 20 minutes as far as your commute to work. So we'll have the 106th Street station, the 116th Street station, and the 125th Street station, which will be at the corner of 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. Right now, what you're seeing highlighted in red, if you can see it here, is lot 20. That is the site of MTA's future station. So why are we doing this, right? Why is the MTA pursuing this rezoning? There's a couple big reasons. We are making a pretty large $7 billion investment with the expansion of the Second Avenue subway to build out these 3 new stations and improve transit connectivity. We did phase 1 a couple years ago, right? Second Avenue subway phase 1 that extended to 96th Street. And since then, we've learned a couple of lessons and are trying to do phase 2 a little bit better. So among those things, we are trying to integrate transit better with the surrounding neighborhood, with the surrounding environment. So that means more prominent, taller entrances, active ground floor uses like stores and community facilities in order not to have big, blank walls on the street. And we're also trying to plan ahead, engineering our structures to accommodate residential overbuilds or buildings above the station. And we're trying to get ahead of that process now, entitling the properties for future development. And as Paul said, some of the revenue from the development we expect to help fund the Second Avenue subway. So here in this picture, we have a diagram of the rezoning area. MTA is proposing to rezone 3 lots making up the entirety of this block between Lexington Avenue and 3rd Avenue, between 125th Street and 124th Street. On the left is lot 20. That's the MTA site, the future station. On the right is lot 27. That's a privately owned lot. And on the right, the southwest corner is lot 33. This is currently a New York City Fire Department firehouse. Here are some photos of the site right now. So we have a photo looking up from 124th Street and Lexington, looking north along Lexington. Here's one looking east along 124th Street. And here's one looking at the corner from 124th and Lex. As I'm sure you folks are aware, both this lot 20 and lot 27 have sat vacant for a while since the demolition of the Pathmark grocery store. So what is the MTA envisioning here? It's slightly washed out on this screen, I will say, so it might be a bit hard to see, but we have a diagram here showing how MTA is planning to build out this new entrance on Lexington and 125th. So the map is kind of flipped from how it was last time. Now 125th Street is running across the screen right here, and Lexington is running up to the top right of the screen. The intersection there, lot 20, you'll see our new entrance. This is where MTA is planning to build its new subway entrance that will connect down to the new Q, which will be running underneath 125th Street. And it'll also connect to the existing 456 train line. On the corner of 125th and Lexington, which is right here, you can see the new MTA entrance. And then on the corner of 124th and Lexington, you can see our new vent facility. So because the station is so deep underground and we're building in like modern code requirements, we have to have a pretty large vent plant essentially to suck the air out in case of a fire. So there's going to be a vent building here that I think could rise to about 80 or 120 feet. And so we're working to actively program the ground floors of that space to make sure that it's not just a blank wall and a big bulk mass on that corner. And then it's a bit washed out here, but above lot 20, we're expecting to build a building above this to put housing above the future entrance. And so a brief history on previous rezonings. There was the 125th Street rezoning in 2008 that created the special 125th Street zoning district. And it also created some contextual zoning districts, mapping C44Ds instead of a C44. There was also the East Harlem Corridors rezoning in 2017. During that time, they actually created the Park Avenue Hub sub-district within the special 125th Street special district. But they left out our site, the Pathmark site, because the Pathmark was on it. They wanted to discourage redevelopment of the Pathmark site, from what we understand. And of course, last year, the New York State 2025 budget passed, which removed the floor area ratio cap from 12 FAR, allowing for denser zoning districts. And then last December, the city codified that with the establishment of R11 and R12 equivalent districts. Basically meaning larger zoning districts or more dense zoning districts. So here on the screen, we can see a map of the current zoning. In black, you'll see the block that MTA is seeking to rezone. So on the left, we have MTA's lot, the new entrance and ancillary facility on lot 20, the private lot, lot 27, and the FDNY lot, lot 30. To the left, you can see in light blue, the 125th and Park Street area. This is the Park Avenue Hub subdistrict of the special 125th Street district. As I was mentioning in the East Harlem Corridors rezoning, this is an area that with previous city action was upzoned to allow for high density around transit. This is the intersection of 125th and Park. It's where Metro North intersects with 125th Street, and it's close, of course, to the 456 and the future Q train. So this is an area that at the time they felt it was appropriate to have density around transit. And then just south in the green, there's the East Harlem Corridors rezoning, which in some areas does allow for slightly taller base heights and allows for more residential density with fewer commercial or retail requirements. So what we're trying to do is effectively kind of map some of those characteristics you're seeing in neighboring districts onto our new site. So right now, the site is zoned for a C44D. We're proposing to bring over the C611 or the high density districts that's currently mapped in the Park Avenue Hub subdistrict over into our new subdistrict B as requested by city planning. It would create a new subdistrict in the 100 special 25th Street district. So a couple key points on this. It would be a C611 district that is an R11 equivalent. That's a standard FAR of 12 and an affordable FAR of 15. It would have a minimum base height of 60 feet along 125th Street. It would have a maximum base height of 125 feet, which is in line with some of the East Harlem corridor below. It would lower the commercial FAR slightly so we could build a little more housing and have less office or retail requirements for the building. And it also would map MIH. So after speaking to the Deputy Speaker's office, to Councilmember Ayala, the MTA is proposing to map 2 MIH options as part of this rezoning. It would be either option 1, which is 25% of units at 60% AMI, or option 3, deep affordability, which is 20% of the units at 40% AMI. It's also worth noting that 125th Street is along the flight path of LaGuardia Airport, so all new development here is effectively limited to about 400 feet tall. And that's codified by the New York City zoning resolution, but is essentially an FAA, Federal Air Aviation Administration requirement. So what would this look like? This is a rendering of what we might expect to see with the R11 density on the site. The entrance is shown here in gray below, and in yellow, you would also see some retail spaces that we have planned out, carving them out of our ancillary facilities and the residential building as well. In blue is the residential building. We would expect to see up to 684 units, up to 171 affordable units with MIH option 1. And to facilitate this, we would do a zoning map amendment as described and a zoning text amendment. Here's a quick side-by-side comparison of what the current zoning allows for today and what the MTA is proposing to do with the C611 rezoning. As you can see, it's a lot more housing that the MTA is proposing to facilitate with this rezoning. We'd also want to point out that right now, because the Second Avenue subway entrance kind of restricts the design, it's a bit advantageous for MTA to get a little more floor area to build a bit taller because it can't build as wide. It is also worth noting that right now this is not an inclusionary housing designated area. It's not a mandatory inclusionary housing designated area. But under the rezoning, MAH would be mapped. So affordability would be required. We're expecting about 171 affordable units to be required. And then we've already certified, but in case you looked us up on the zoning portal, you'll see for environmental review, we're analyzing actually a much taller height and a much bigger building size than we actually expect to get built. And that's really just to cover our bases. So for the cases of environmental review, we analyze the theoretical maximum extent, but we're really not expecting the buildings to look this tall. To get taller than 400 feet, as I mentioned earlier, the developer on their own, without the MTA's help, would have to apply for a special permit. That's their own, they'd have to do an aviation study, that's their own thing. We're not expecting them to do it, but we're analyzing it just in case. And on the right, on the right, you can see what we expect to be built. So right now you'll see what we're proposing to do with the R11 density on the MTA lot, lot 20. And then on lot 27, this is what is currently filed to be built on the site. So right now there's a developer that owns the site and has filed building plans to build a building that tall. So we actually wouldn't expect them to be necessarily building a tower like the MTA was. Of course they could, but this is what we've seen filed. And here's just a quick overview of the timeline. We're just past May 19th where we were certified. As Paul mentioned, we're in public review. It's the community board's window right now. And we do have a long way to go before we get to actually constructing the TOD or the development, which would happen after the opening of the Second Avenue subway in about 2032. And here's a quick summary slide. Wrapping us up, we'll go from a C44D to a C611. We're going to map MIH in a new subdistrict and try to increase residential density by lowering the commercial requirements. And we'll raise the base height slightly to match the special East Harlem Corridors district. And we're expecting up to 684 units, 171 affordable units. And of course, all of this is going to go towards creating density near transit and towards supporting the construction of the Second Avenue subway. And I think that wraps up the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to go Leslie, and then please come up to the mic to speak, and then Kenneth, and so 1, 2, 3, like that. All right.
Good afternoon, good evening. Leslie Colon, Franklin Plaza board member, new member here. You said that this is gonna start, you're more focused on 125th Street. However, you have to pass 106th Street, and that's a really big concern to me, because that looks pretty and it's nice and everything, but a lot of people have left this program before the pandemic. And everybody that's assigned to it now doesn't remember that there's a gas plant where you want to put a train station in Franklin Plaza on 106th Street. I have been telling people, stop the process because our gas plant is above ground. And the world that we live in, the mental health people can just throw a bomb there and my building gets leveled. We've already had one gas explosion in this community, March 12th, 2014, right here on 117 in Park.
Les, this is related to a development at 125th. So do you have a question to that?
6th Street before they get to 125th Street.
Yeah.
So that's my concern. I know Joe O'Donnell, and all of this has to be rectified before it goes up to 125th Street. So I just wanted to let you know that before that looks pretty and everything, you have to address that first train station before you can go forward.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. We'll definitely let our colleagues know that are doing Second Avenue subway project planning. Just so you know about the phasing, the stations will actually, the contractor will have the option to construct all the stations simultaneously or one after another, so that they're being bidded out where all 3 stations will go together in phases. So construction may be happening simultaneously on all 3 sites, possibly, just so you know, but we'll absolutely flag that and appreciate that comment and let our team know.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Leslie.
Watching.
Kenneth.
Hi, Kenneth, board member, vice chair of land use. Saw your presentation last week. Thanks again for coming in. It's good to see that you're mapping on MIH. I do want to press upon the fact that we do really want affordable housing in our district. And I know as a public benefit corporation, you have bylaws that prevent you from just giving away land, but that doesn't prevent a public benefit corporation from partnering with city agencies. And so our hope is that if you could have a solution with HPD, a voucher system, there are ways to creatively add affordable housing to this site. As it stands, it's 25% income restricted, which means the other 75% are all market rate. So our hope is that we can change that ratio. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you,
your
Ada.
presentation. It's the first time I see it. My name is Ada. I had a question in regards to the fire department. You mentioned one of the lots belongs to the fire department. Will it be relocated? Will it be staying in the same lot? What will happen? And when you have increased units for renters or subleasing, will that increase the number of also firehouses that are needed in the area?
I'm not sure about the number of firehouses needed, but the FDNY lot, we're just changing the zoning of it. They will
Remain.
choose to stay if they want, or the city could choose to get rid
Mm.
of it. So I don't. It wouldn't. We're not expecting them to move.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly, your question?
Hi, Beverly from Land Use, also a community board member. My question is to actually piggyback off the affordability. You stated earlier that y'all are making a $7 billion investment for the Second Avenue subway, but you also mentioned that you want to do residential housing to help pay for it. So are y'all getting more, like getting paid twice? Because you're getting money to do the subway already. So how would y'all be using the money that you get from the housing if you already built the station? My second question is regarding the vent that's going to be on 124th Street and Lexington Avenue. If you're doing a residential housing at that location above, and I know the vent's supposed to be 100 to 180 feet high, I believe you said. Do you have any other buildings within the city that has a vent that high or a vent at all that's next to residential? And how does that work in case of a fire with that being so close to a residential unit? Thank you.
Sure. So to go back to your first question, the $7 billion figure, I'm not the capital budget guy, so but as I understand it, that is the overall estimated cost of the entire project. Part of the way it's planned to be funded is with some of the proceeds from residential development. So it's not a double dipping. The anticipated development revenue is part of the budget, essentially, if that makes sense. As far as the vent plant, there are definitely vent plants across the city. The MTA and most tunnels have really big vent plants to pull air out of tunnels, especially for newer stations. There is a big vent on Second Avenue, I think like in the 50s or 60s, that serves the Long Island Railroad Tunnel from Queens that gets you into Grand Central Madison. That is right next, that's on a lot that's just has that tower for the MTA, but right next to it is a residential building. And there haven't been any issues with that so far. But just to clarify, like the vent plant itself is not expected to ever be on fire. The idea is that, I mean, I guess it could be, but the idea is that if there's ever a fire on the track level in the subway station, there's these really huge fans that can pull the air out and circulate it really quick to extinguish the flames underground quickly. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. And just a reminder, this is about the zoning change. Okay, just so again, there will be questions they may or may not be able to answer, and they are going to be presenting at Land Use, Landmarks, and Planning on July 9th, as a reminder. So Jose, please.
Thank you. Could you show us the map of the actual rezoning, please?
Sure.
I'm not on land use, so I have a lot of silly questions that.
It's not going back. Are you able to? Huh? You're getting closer? I'm actually far away.
Oh, look, to me, look.
I'll let you take this.
Jose, tell me which one you want.
Where the zone, right there, that's perfect. Yeah, so, this was all Excel, I was just curious. So this was all Excel and the MTA bought that part, which we now call lot 20 from Excel?
That's right. So
But we are,
Everything in black except for the firehouse was Excel.
Okay, so then you're asking us to rezone that everything in black, but that also includes the property that Excel owns.
It's sold it to another developer.
So another, okay, I just.
It's not Excel
again.
anymore, but there is a developer who owns it and has planned a building there, and they've submitted permits to build it under existing zoning.
But this rezoning would allow them to go up
Yes.
substantially more.
Yes.
Have they made any increase to affordability in that sense? Because we have always asked as community board for affordable housing, and if we're going to change this variance to allow them to build up, not just you, but them as well, we would hope that there would be a commitment from them for affordable housing in there. And I understand it is as of right and they own it straight out, but you are getting a variance to build substantially higher. Has there been that conversation?
Yeah, we're not coordinating with them. They're a private developer developing, but our understanding is they plan to proceed under the current zoning. The current zoning has no mandatory inclusionary housing, so it's possible that they could build without affordable units. I think it's likely, I mean, what I've heard is they're grandfathered in under the old 421A, state incentive abatement. So if they're doing that, they will be required to do probably 20. I'm not sure if they're operating under 20% or 25% affordable units, but they'll be required to do that to get the tax abatement. The zoning does not have any requirements for affordable units. So if this zoning proposal passes, they will then have to, there will be mandatory inclusionary housing. They will have to decide whether to go forward under the former zoning, which, will allow them, doesn't allow them to build as much and does not have a zoning requirement for affordable units, or change their plans, build under the rezoned zoning, which will allow more density, but will require, it's actually the council member who decides, which MIH options. And she has asked us to go forward with the one option, which is 25% affordable units at 60 AMI, or an option that is 20% of units at 40 AMI, lower income. So they'll have to make that decision.
Because you could always just do your part, not necessarily the whole block. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, generally, city planning doesn't like to just zone one development site. They want to make it more contextual. So working with city planning, they've asked us to include the whole block and make some changes to the Park Avenue site that John mentioned. So that is the proposal.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Nelson? And then we'll conclude with Derek.
So thank you for your presentation. One suggestion that I will have is not everyone here is part of land use and doesn't understand all the, I'll use the word gibberish, even though it isn't, it makes sense to you. And so it would be nice for you to explain in general common sense language for the rest of us. And I am land use. I was the former vice chair of land use, and I'm the former chair of Community Board 11, but I'm talking on behalf of all the rest of everyone who doesn't understand what an R11 means. How many feet, how many floors do you think it is? Because you're talking about 684 units, 171 affordable. There was a court case that lowered the preference at a certain time. The preference that's coming into the community will be much less. I think it's like 14% or 15%. I could have the wrong percentage. So we're talking about the council member making decisions. However, most often the council member listens to the community board and its suggestions, as well as the community. So in order for this to be a true public hearing, we need to understand a little bit of how high you're talking about, how many feet, what in relation to this community. There are other buildings so that we can, are you talking 20 floors? Are you talking about 20 floors and then the ancillary stuff in between? Like how high do you mean, right? That was the first question. And then the second one was that I was very vociferous in the land use meeting about the affordability. And I understand that that is not your domain, but something else has to be done, because I understand that Diana has her suggestions, but according to this T-shirt, I
housing ambassadors. I am a Hellgate Management, in addition to running 2 multi-service centers in Manhattan and in the Bronx. We need more affordable housing. This community has a lot of shelters and a lot of programs and a lot of displaced people, in addition to all who have come that are undocumented who are looking for homes. And so while we are having, it's great to infuse the MTA with, market rate rents, it may not be best for the rest of us, including the fact that the next lot could be developed higher. And then we're putting a burden on a lot of the services that we have in this community. So I just would like you, if you can, to go back so that we get a sense how many feet and how many floors are we talking about, so people get a realistic viewpoint of what you're saying. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. You may respond.
Sure. Do you want to go, Angel, do you mind going back to the slide that has an axonometric view? Maybe, sure. I think it's the other direction. Yeah, it's the other direction. Sorry. No, I was just making sure. I'm sorry. Let's go. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So what you're seeing now is a building that is about 400 feet tall. That is about 38 stories. 38, 38. Yeah, so it's slightly taller than Taino Towers. That's correct.
10 feet floor, but higher, more or less 48.
Yeah. And the ancillary facility that you're seeing there, we're estimating to be between 80 and 120 feet tall. So that's about 8 to 12 stories, to kind of contextualize that. Apologies for using the jargon.
Okay. Thank you.
And we, sure.
Yeah. I just want to give a little more info on the height. So the zoning doesn't set a height, but it's because it's in this LaGuardia flight path. There's an analysis that you have to do, which seems to indicate around 400 feet is the max here. But we are planning for 400. The floor area of the rezoned site can fit at 400, but there is also, the zoning does allow for a process to go to the Board of Standards and Appeals to get a waiver of the 400 if the FAA agrees to it. So before preparing this, we consulted with a consultant who studies these things to see what do they think if a developer could get a waiver, how high they think the FAA would allow. And we were told about 100 extra feet. So I believe in our environmental documents, we planned for 550 feet as a worst case scenario. But that would require an additional process that would have to go to the FAA and to the Board of Standards and Appeals. Under the existing zoning, we think we could get to about 400 feet. So that's what we're expecting. And then your other question, just to touch on the affordability, I've said this in some of the committees, but to say it tonight, the MTA cannot build affordable housing on its own. We have bylaws that all the money we make has to go towards transit. So improving subways and buses and other transit systems. If we're doing a project like this, that is, where there's a desire for greater affordability than what the zoning allows, it would be through working with HPD or city agency to subsidize the additional affordable housing. So that is a possibility. It hasn't been worked out. We've been asked to reach out to HPD. I think we're open to doing that. City planning will also be doing that. To be frank, it would be very unusual to get a building of this size subsidized by HPD. There could probably be some additional subsidy for some affordability. But in previous meetings, it was suggested that any publicly owned site should be 100% affordable. I don't think that's realistic. But there is some room, I'm sure, there to meet with HPD and see if there's a willingness to subsidize additional affordability here.
Okay. Derek and then Jessica Morris. We'll try to move things along in Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, Derek Sampone, CB11 member of Land Use Committee. I have two questions. There is also a request for some changes to the zoning around the Park Avenue site. So if you could just speak for the people who aren't familiar as we are, just speak to a little bit about what those changes are and sort of what are you hoping to accomplish with that. And then my second question slash comment, at land use, our land use consultant, George James, spoke a little bit about how like this would be a very tall building. You know, this is the type of zoning that you'd see in like Midtown, right? This difference between a building of 400, 450, 500, like it's a really big building, right? From the street, like it's just going all the way up. But we talked a little bit about some of the other things that could be included in the RFP to perhaps make this building not feel so big. For example, something around like sidewalk widening, right? And like reallocating the FAR to like make it feel a little bit bigger. You've talked a little bit about what the station will look like. You also talked a little bit at land use about like taking the station entrances off of Lexington and incorporating them into buildings. So I guess my second question is if you could speak a little bit about maybe it's not zoning things, but things that are on the table to not make that big building feel so looming on the block itself. Thank you.
Sure. Angel, do you mind if we go back a couple slides? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So in the blue is the area that's the Park Avenue area. Right now that area is zoned for C64 for R10. It's similarly unheight restricted. It can be as tall as about 400 feet with the FAA flight path. And it's a fairly dense building. It's also what you might consider like a midtown level density. So what the MTA is proposing to do there is not to change any of the underlying density or zoning there. We are proposing to, one, change a commercial floor area requirement. That's essentially a requirement that's been put in place by city planning to say that, in this case, about 1/6 of your building must be non-residential space. It must be commercial space or retail space. We are lowering that. We're proposing to lower that by a smidge. It went from 2 FAR to 1.5 FAR. We're lowering it by 25%. And the hope with that is to encourage more housing development, because some of the lots that, you know, in 2008 in that blue area that were projected to be developed, like there's a parking lot on 126th and Park. Some of those sites that were projected to be housing sites never really became housing. And so this was kind of an idea that was suggested to us by the city that we thought was a good idea, to lower that slightly to just make it a bit easier to build housing without providing like office in addition to that, or retail. Okay. What else are we doing there? Oh, we're also proposing to raise the base height from 85 feet to 125 feet. The base height is the height that you can build to on a building before you need to set back or push the building back from the street line. So zoning right now requires typically that the building has to be pushed back about 10 or 15 feet from the street line. Right now, you can build up to 85 feet and then have to push back a little bit, which kind of helps visibility. And we're saying we want to move it to 125 feet. We believe we couldn't really understand why this was done to this district. We thought it was maybe to help visibility of the Metro North station, but MTA has kind of determined we're okay with a slightly taller building or a slightly taller base height, which will allow for an ultimately shorter building, if that makes any sense. These are both things that we're open to feedback on and open to talking about the community with. And they're just small. I guess maybe they don't seem small, but they're a couple of text modifications to this area. Right. And those were higher. I think there was an attempt at some point in the past to try to create kind of like a commercial area, like maybe a small office area around Metro North 125th. And I think that didn't play out necessarily. I'm not sure if that was the full intent, but from what I understand, that's what it might have been. Regarding the urban design, yeah, we're definitely open to continuing conversations about how we make the buildings seem less tall. Like as you were saying, when they get super tall, they might not feel that different from the street level. The biggest thing that we have learned from phase one is to make sure that the ground floor and in some places the second story have community or restaurant or retail uses. That way, you're not just walking past a big wall. From what we've seen, the sidewalks are fairly wide enough, and we don't expect, from environmental analysis so far, we don't expect there to be too much congestion to the point where you would want to widen the sidewalks. But that is definitely something that, like, if we find later down the line is necessary, or something happens to Second Avenue subway, that's something MTA can probably continue to talk about. But it's not something that we've written into the zoning change. As far as moving an entrance off the street, that's across the street, just so you know. Across the street, there's a sidewalk entrance. There will be a new building that's unrelated to the MTA that's going to be built across from Lexington on the eastern side of Lexington Avenue, south of 125th Street. MTA is taking an easement, or MTA is getting space on that site to widen the stair into the building, which would help free up congestion on the sidewalk around that sidewalk entrance. And of course, the existing sidewalk entrance on the other side, on the side of lot 20, will be removed with the construction of the Second Avenue subway, freeing up the sidewalk space.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think no, it's fine. It's helpful. We're going to have another bite of the apple July 9th, and you can log in, all board members, if you have follow-up questions, dive deep into our training. No, I'm going to allow 3 more questions. So no, you don't have to sit down, please. It's your choice, but I'll allow it. And then Agatha, Hayward, you had one? Yeah. So yeah, those 3, and then Agatha White, and then we're going to wrap it up to see if there's any. I know this. Oh, well, we have James. So 5 brief questions, and then we're going to see if there are any members of the public who've registered to give testimony on it. But these are good questions to educate people, and I encourage you to go do research on all of our rezonings that affect this area, and then follow up. And we appreciate your time, gentlemen. This is helpful for us to dive in and actually advocate for the needs of this community. So please, Hayward, go right behind James. Okay, go ahead, Jessica.
Thank you very much. You mentioned BSA, and just to avoid any perceived or actual conflict of interest, while I am today here as a community board member of CB11, a couple of weeks from now, I will be at BSA. So speaking now as a community board member, couple things, and I know you're coming back on the 9th, so we want to better understand what you're trying to do here, because you're doing something really big eventually in this community. This is a moneymaker for you all, is my understanding generally of what you're trying to do with rezoning. And that's a good thing, because if you can pay for the subway in our neighborhood, we benefit. At the same time, we don't want to be exploited by asking for too much if it's not necessary, or if we can't understand why it is necessary at this point. I want to point to a little bit down on the map across the way, the MEC rezoning that had embedded in it, in a rezoning, a really useful and very specific set of urban design guidelines. What Derek was asking for, I think, are things that we could possibly suggest and sort of ask for as part of our response to your rezoning. And if you were willing, you could sort of accept some of those suggestions. What we would ask for, I don't know yet. I think that's up to us to decide when we put some points of request. So Taino Towers, 334 feet. 334 feet. In the coming Carmen Villegas apartments further down on Park, 290 feet, all affordable senior housing in perpetuity. This is going to be a different kind of housing in a neighborhood that asks for its most needed kind of housing. So saying there's not much of a difference between 500 feet and something less than that, when part of BSA's clause, as I understand it, which I will begin to understand more, I'm sure, is that you get the minimum amount to make sure that you're not incurring hardship. I would like to, and this is the question, better understand if these active ground floor uses, I live on Second Ave, actually just over 96th Street, so appreciate what happened on 97th Street, which wasn't so good with that non-active ground floor use, and how big a space you need for air to move effectively. Do these active ground floor uses and the amount of space you need for the mechanical systems, that's why you need a higher building. Is that generally? So just asking if you can kind of quantify for us spatially in terms of square feet and volume, why you're asking for more space higher in order to offset those things that, one, we don't really care about but is necessary from a technical perspective. The other one we want, but we don't know what it is yet, so we can't kind of nod our head yes, right? And what that means as far as kind of cost impacts, what you'll be getting, sort of 7 billion is a big number. Can you break it down for us a little bit? For us to understand your financing as you're projecting for an RFQ down the line, what a developer is going to ultimately kind of put on the table for you and where that's going to go into your cycle of being able to deliver this, or if it's not directly feeding your kind of Second Avenue subway capital budget, where are we seeing that, there's how do you say, virtuous cycle, right? In what you're asking for and what you're giving back to a community. So design guidelines, a little bit more on your numbers, if you could, and how those numbers equate to space that we will get that will benefit our collective ground community space here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Chancellor. Yo, sorry. You're up next in question. You can answer the question. Sorry.
Sorry, I'll try to be quick on this one. For the urban design guidelines, would love to hear some of those suggestions. Feel free to email us. My contact information is in that slide, as is Paul's. Joe O'Donnell is the representative from the MTA for this geographical area and for Second Avenue Subway. And you can also email us at tod@mtacd.org. So definitely open to hearing that. Are you asking for the square footage of like the community facilities? Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. Right. Mhm.
Like to know more in those terms, if you can break that
Sure.
down for us, whether it's graphically or table or chart. I think that was helpful to understand what this means beyond the giant big maps.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. We can definitely come back with that.
Thank you, Jessica. Chancellor, your
Okay.
question.
Yeah, something that you can bring back to the July 9th meeting as well. The comparison, I'm pretty sure this is the first of its kind of building apartments above a station. Am I correct? Is that there? For New York City.
I don't think so.
I think this is the first time MTA has planned this way.
Planned
I
this
don't know if this is the first time it's ever happened.
Buildings that have subway.
Got it. Because yeah, I would like to see a comparison for the rezoning, right? The purpose of being something so big, if you have a comparison, even if it's not New York City, you can use somewhere else.
Some other sites where there's a large building.
Correct. And then also because of this site is in evacuation zone 4, right? And just want to know to make sure like environmental impacts, if a coastal storm was to come to this area, will that affect it, right? Will the new building being so high and everything, will it be bad for our residents to actually be there? Things like that. It's just an emergency management question.
Sorry, will it be what?
Be bad for the residents, right?
Right.
Because it's so high, right? And while most people think coastal storms deal with flooding, dealing with wind, right? High wind, sometimes wind going 115 miles per hour. Want to make sure that our residents are safe in there. And like I said, it's in evacuation zone 4. So if something was to happen and they have to evacuate, I want to make sure that these guys are good.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely a valid concern. That's something that would be the responsibility of course, the MTA, but also the developer and the developer's architect and engineer to ensure. But I will definitely make sure of that. And part of this, the reason why the exercise is happening now, as Paul said, is to help determine the structural requirements of the MTA area below to be able to support such like life safety and safe engineering. So yeah, for sure.
James.
How you doing? James Gray, new board member. I understand that there were some high liquefaction zones between 96 and 116th Street. Just wanted to know how deep is the liquefaction soil for this project?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer for that, but we will take note of that. The like how deep is the liquefaction happening? Okay. Between 106th Street and 116th Street.
Well, no, between 96 and 116th,
96, excuse me.
Yeah, there were some high risk liquefaction areas.
Okay.
So just wanted to know what the liquefaction depth is for this project.
Okay, sounds good. We will ask the engineers and try to come back with a good answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Hayward, and then the last one will be from Eggett White, who's online, one of our board members.
How you doing? Hayward, new board member. I know nothing about geometry. That was not my specialty in school. But the question is, I would like to know is I want to see the research on the medium income for the neighborhood. I think it's not that nobody wants this to be rezoned for more housing. It's the fact that the community, the Black and brown community, feel like they always get the short change when they build these high rises in the neighborhood because they can't get afforded. And then people depend on HRA to pay the rent. The problem is the rent is like say let's say $2,000, and the person works. HRA is going to say, well, we'll only pay about $800. The person still cannot afford. And then you're going to have rental arrears, and then they're going to go through the eviction process and get that out, which then shifts the culture of who you're advertising this to. So the median average income from the neighborhood is not $150,000. It's not $200,000. It's probably between like $50,000, $75,000 hourly workers. So what is the average median income for that neighborhood that you want to build? And that's what I would like to see in your next proposal. And then two is when you do this RFP, what are you going to be asking? Who are they hiring? Minority-owned businesses within the community they want to build this in. And then what are the effects moving forward? Will MetroCard rates go up? Because we're already having more MetroCards are going up. My friend lived 2 years ago. It was $1.75. We're at $2 something now, right? And so what's the impact for 5 years, 10 years from now when it's built and completed? So those things I would like to see, especially the research on what that medium income is for that neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Regarding MTA fare policy, I'm sorry, I can't speak to that at all. I don't know what the MTA board is going to do. But completely heard that it's definitely not good when for people when prices go up. Regarding minority-owned businesses, that's definitely something the MTA would be willing to talk about more and including in the RFP, especially in terms of like what retail space goes to, what community facility space. I know there's a joke running around City Hall, or I don't know what Diana Ayala's office, that she wants a diner there in that space. So we're definitely willing to talk about that sort of thing and continue those conversations. And then regarding the existing AMI, so part of the rezoning requires a racial equity report that's publicly available online on the zoning application portal for this application. And there's also a tool the city planning has to explore that more. It's called the Community Development Equitable Database Explorer. It's CDDE. It's on city planning's website. So those numbers are published and definitely out there. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, and just for everyone, it's been one of the challenges we've dealt with at Community Board 11 is that area median income, we are lumped in with Westchester. So that's something that skews us upward and something we dealt with. So to say when we talk about 100% affordability, its genesis was from East Harlem and Community Board 11. And I just want you all to take a look at Sendero Verde, which is one of our major successes here in this neighborhood, 100% affordable. So I think it's important to remember that we are skewed upward, even though our local, due to the concentration of many factors, which I'm not going to go into this evening. But again, they will take it back to their other departments. And I appreciate the question. I think we all are on the same page here. So thank you, Asher. And then I'm going to go to Agatha, and then we'll conclude. Let's see if there are any other members of the public who've actually registered. Thank you.
Has the MTA taken into account how this will affect air quality in the area? Because there's a few schools a couple of blocks down, and we already have a high asthma rate.
So this rezoning was studied under one environmental analysis that studied air quality, and that rezoning was specifically to analyze the buildings above, and they found that the construction of the buildings would not have significant adverse impacts. However, I also know that the Second Avenue subway itself has its own environmental review that did have some impacts. I'm personally not familiar with them, but and I'm not sure what the MTA is doing in regards to that, but it's definitely something that should be published online and something we can follow up with our Second Avenue subway team for.
Thank you. Agatha White, your question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, Agatha White here, new member. I just have a few questions. You might have answered this before. If so, you don't have to answer them. So the first one is, have you conducted any shadow studies to show the impact of the building mass in the surrounding area? And um, also, do you have like another image showing like the overall context of the neighborhood, just to show if there are other buildings that have a similar mass, right? Or is it just Park Avenue? Because you said it could go up to 400 or 500 feet, right? Would this just be a sore thumb in the area of Lexington Avenue, the building sticking up so high? And would this be an example for other buildings to follow? Also, are you guys incorporating any public plazas or open spaces for community use, considering the significant height and potential impact on the area? And lastly, are there parking planned for the building for underground parking, given the massive amount of apartments that there will be in the area? Thank you.
Sure. I might have forgotten a question or two, but let me try to go through them. There is not any parking plan for this building. Instead of parking underneath, we'll have the subway underneath. I know that's not necessarily the most popular opinion, but because of the transit service and the new City of Yes zoning, the thought is here we would not require parking on the site. Regarding open space, MTA is not planning on providing any new plazas on their land because most of the land will be used to build out new stations and new public facilities, but they won't be necessarily open space. The environmental review that is published for this project does include shadow analyses, and so that's also available online. And what was the first or second question?
Shadow studies, and then the other one is you have another image showing the overall context to see if there are other buildings that are as this tall in the area, or would this just be the only building aside from Park Avenue that we all know have tall buildings? Are there other tall buildings in the area? Do you have an image showing the overall context to compare it with a new mass?
That's right. I'm not sure we do have an axonometric, like a neighborhood character diagram. I can look and see if we have one, and we can bring it on the next meeting. If we do, as they mentioned, this could be the tallest building. Of course, it's up to the developer. And just to clarify, even though we did analyze heights above 500 feet or 550 feet, we aren't expecting that, and that would be a separate process that the developer would have an onus to go on, and the community is welcome to weigh in on that, and also on MTA's planned height as well. But yeah, I can look for more diagrams on character.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to see if there's any testimony from the public. These were great questions, board members. So again, he'll be able to prepare more thoroughly, maybe get some answers for you on July 9th. Are there, and you can lower your hand, Agatha. Thank you. Are there any members of the public that have registered, Colleen? Okay. All right. If you've registered, please raise your hand to give testimony. Okay. All right, seeing that there are none, we will accept testimony from the public until July 2nd. We will have our meeting of land use, landmarks, and planning July 9th, where MTA will present again and hopefully have additional answers. And keeping in mind what they're presenting on is on the zoning change, not necessarily with the capital plan or whatnot, but it'd be great if Joe could come along, that he might be able to help out with that as well. Okay, he was planning. All right, so great. So wonderful. And then we vote on this July 29th. And that is why we're having a full board meeting in July. So with that, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. I appreciate the thoughtful questions. Really get stuck in. You can go through your manual, your online for our new members, and look at zoning. I know it's very wonky and it's cumbersome at the best of times, but you can really learn a lot. And then asking questions that, lay people like myself, and like Nilsa said, like how many feet does that translate into? So you can conceptualize and walk around and understand what we're developing and what we're advocating for. So we'll now move into our business session. We have the adoption of the board minutes. The minutes from last full board meeting were distributed to board members ahead of time by the board office. If there are no objections, we'll adopt the minutes from the meeting. Board members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom or in the room. Seeing no objections, the minutes from last full board meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB11 website. Now on to the chair's report. I'm going to keep it brief. There's a lot of information there. Please, please read it. Go to the Google Drive where we have our meeting materials. When you go to our agenda, where it has full board agenda that Angel and the staff send out, you'll see view meeting materials. Go to the year, then the date. You will find where reports are placed in there, and you can read them digitally. I try to bring it on the day of full board because sometimes I even have meetings the day of or the day before. So I add into that. So I appreciate your patience. A couple things to call out. Obviously, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, we celebrate Juneteenth this Thursday. The office will be closed. Many of the city, it's a federal holiday. There'll be a lot of activities in the neighborhood. Please look either at the newsletter or on our website. The mayor's charter revision. This is very important. It affects all of us. Myself and Angel had a call earlier this month. The charter revision with the mayor's commission is going to be dealing with how it affects the council and community boards when it comes to land use. They're looking at a lot of changes in that. I encourage you, I don't expect you, the last hearings in Staten Island on June 23rd from 5 to 8, I do not expect you to go to Staten Island. You can sign up and give testimony online. I encourage you to do that. There's an inside joke with Staten Island, but that's okay. Anyway, with that, please, 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 it will negate a lot of the work. Much like we're doing with term limits now with community boards, this will reduce our impact and advocacy. You to give testimony if you can. Also to that, we have at the assembly a vote passed the chamber to actually support the city council speaker's charter revision as well. It's potentially going to pass the Senate if signed into law. It could appear whatever their recommendations are on the ballot this general election. So something to stay tuned to. Going through here, I attended this is important for a lot of our new members about the work and advocacy we do. Along with Tricia Shimamura, who used to be a board member of CB8. She's the Deputy Director of Parks. We had the groundbreaking of Detective Omar Edwards Park over at 225 East 124th Street. For those that don't know, please look up. I've included the information. When I first got on the board in 2009, he was fatally shot right there. It's taken 16 years to get to this groundbreaking in honor of his memory. So this is the work we do, just like we've seen it takes. And David Giordano, and I'm just calling you out because you and I have advocated this. We've seen parks like the renovation of Thomas Jefferson Park. That took 10 years just to get done. So this is what I'd like all of you to think as we go in, the long-term planning and what we're going to be doing as we pass on our information. So that here we go. The Harlem Community Justice Center had its second meeting. We will, that's the courthouse that recently got funded and the roof that's getting repaired and they're doing the internal renovations. I reported on that. I think it was in April. It's very important. We're going to break out into three subcommittees called Youth, Seniors, and Housing. And they are going to have a fourth, which is an outreach committee. When Angel and I had a conversation about when are they going to have contact with us, they're inchworming their way, but they wanted to have something more formulated. It was very important. So that is something that's coming down the pike. Puerto Rican Day activities were a blast here in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, there was a shooting near Franklin Plaza in the parking lot there. Unfortunately, just like last year, we had another situation, but otherwise everything went off very well at the 116th Street Day Festival. And yeah, we continue to do a lot of great work here. I attended the Father's Day events that were held here in El Barrio over at Cherry Tree Park and El Barrio Art Space. So there's a lot of stuff coming up. So please stay tuned for the summer when we have family days and other street activities. And a final bit, we will, when we have our full board, we're going to try to schedule an additional onboarding when we have all our board members back here during that week. And then hopefully if we can get arranged a social for CB11. So just stay tuned. That's all I have for my report. Any questions? No. Okay. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the district manager's report. Oh yeah, let me.
Good evening, everyone, again.
Sharing a couple of quick things from my DM report. I did note attending a meeting held by the Department of City Planning regarding the Manhattan Plan. It's an initiative of the mayor's administration to add 100,000 new residential units in the borough over the next decade. Repeating, 100,000 new residential units. So if this goes through, you'll be seeing a lot more presentations like you just saw about, large buildings, because that's where you house lots of units. So something to be paying attention to. The Department of City Planning is maintaining a website for the Manhattan Plan, and we'll be doing outreach throughout the borough. Please keep your eyes peeled. We'll make sure to, add information as soon as we get it to our weekly newsletter, but also, make it your priority to keep your eyes open to the outreach opportunities presented by DCP regarding this initiative. The other thing two things. I wanted to thank Jessica Elliott for coming and lending support on June 2nd. I participated in a panel discussion hosted by the Municipal Arts Society celebrating 50 years of ULURP. I was quite nervous, so it was helpful to have a friendly face in the room. A couple of my community board district manager colleagues were also present. Once I get the link for that panel discussion, I will share it with you so you can see that I didn't stutter quite that much. Then another thing that I didn't get to participate in yesterday because I took a day off, is the New York City Council Committee on Governmental Operations held a hearing on a series of intros having to do with community boards. So I didn't testify, so I won't speak too long, but I did watch the entire thing today. As a district manager and as a proponent of community boards, even before I started working here, I found a lot of the conversation and a lot of what I saw as justification of these council members for what they had introduced kind of gives away a hostility towards community boards, which I also see in the discussions around the revisions to the charter being considered and being discussed. There's this idea that community boards have more impact in a negative way than they actually do. I think personally that these bodies that are entertaining these conversations they seem threatened by community boards, which is kind of silly because at the end of the day, we do all of this work and we take it quite seriously. And what we submit are recommendations, their advice. So we're not making any determinations. They are the bodies making the determinations. So if things are failing after their determinations, they should, in my opinion, look at themselves and what they are doing that's perhaps imperfect. And instead of criticizing community boards, they should appreciate community boards for the amount of time that is being put forward by a volunteer body and a small staff to make recommendations that will help inform the next steps in consideration for all these different projects. One such introduction, this is absurd, is suggesting, this is an introduction being considered as legislation by the city, that community boards do newsletters. That's hilarious. Been doing that. That community boards publish their bylaws on their websites. Also hilarious, right? I'm like, do a little bit of research. The one that's quite upsetting, and I guess selfishly, is the suggestion of establishing terms for district managers, 4-year terms, right? So I don't know what the backstory is, but it kind of smells like a personal vendetta. I've heard some of the testimony being offered by the council member that introduced it and a couple of other council members. And while they try to make it appear as if it isn't personal, it does smell that way. I know, and I've had the good fortune of meeting over the last few years quite a lot of the district managers across the city. There are 59 of us. These are very dedicated public servants by and large. There's always a possibility in any group that there might be a couple of odd ducks, but what I've met are very, very professional, prepared, and dedicated public servants. So the idea that a community board that is having an issue with their district manager can't just take action. So for example, if I'm not doing a good job and you also see fit to discipline me or to dismiss me, you have that within your rights, and I'm fully aware of that, the same way that you have the power to hire me. There's a suggestion that the term limits would aid community boards that are dealing with a district manager that is so entrenched that they don't have the power to act with their own power. It is preposterous. So on its face, it's very clear that the persons introducing and supporting these ideas don't understand how community boards work, or the fact that district managers are professionals that understand that they were hired and work at the pleasure of the bodies that hire them, and that at-will employees are not subject to term limits, unlike elected officials. So with all that said, I suggest if you have nothing better to do, and if you're just curious, there's video of this hearing yesterday. And you can hear for yourself. You don't have to take Angel's word for it. And if you see so fit, reach out to council members that you know or council members that you're interested in reaching out to and speak your mind on the introductions. There was a couple of other ones asking the borough president's offices to do things that they're already required to do by the charter, which is also hilarious. So, with that, I conclude my report, and thank you for your time.
Yes, Nilsa, and then Beverly, then Isaac. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead, Nilsa. To the mic, please.
Angel, I love you. Anyway, do you have the link for us to see this?
Yes.
And also, can you also, I know that George sent me the link for the environmental assessment for the previous presentation for the MTA. If you have that, could you send it to all of us?
Yes.
Yes, these council people don't know what they speak.
Not all of them, just these ones. Like our council member is quite good at supporting community boards. And so was Gail, as a matter of fact.
I just wanted to echo Nilsa. We love you, Angel. But I did have a question. What would the district manager be so entrenched in other than the work of the board?
I don't know. It's all I do is the work of the board. It sounded like there are some of the district managers that folks are taking issue with have been in their positions for so very long, 20, 30 years. It seems like these district managers this is me now, just speaking, I don't know. They probably know their job really well. And when people come to them with foolishness, they're able to ward it off. And folks are frustrated by that. And like I said earlier, I think that there are some bodies that feel threatened by the power of community boards. And when a district manager is doing their job well, they support their boards at doing their jobs well. And if a board's doing its job well, then that's another voice that could potentially be contrary to the position or the advocacy of an administration or an elected official. So again, these are Angel's words, seen as a threat. So perhaps, trying to find a way around, getting this, obstinate, difficult, challenging district manager so that I can get my way. It's kind of foolish. That's not the problem you guys have. I just work for you guys, and, you take it, you don't like it, but I'm not getting in the way of anything that you guys do. On the opposite, I actually keep insisting that you guys do your jobs better. But it's for I'm hoping for the betterment of the operations of the board, and for the betterment ultimately, and most importantly, for the betterment and the service to the community.
Beverly, you had a question? They asked it. Okay, great. Thank you. Officer reports. No, Rosa.
I think the same report as always. If you have any problems or you don't even know how the attendance works, please see me. Everyone should have my number by now, including the new members, which I said it last month. I do prepare a monthly report just in case if anyone wants to see your attendance. And I will also present it at executive tomorrow, which everyone is also welcome to join. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we'll move to committee reports and action items. First up is bylaws, and then on deck is housing. And after that, You can go up there for that.
Hello again, everybody. I'll be quick. Kenneth Crouch, co-chair of Bylaws Committee. We've been hard at work revising and amending, and everything I'm saying is now just for informational purposes. As we all know, or you should know, we will make a formal recommendation to the board. A 50-day notice period will elapse, and then we as a board get to vote on a procedure. So on our last meeting, we talked about board office eligibility. In other words, what are the requirements to run for board office? We also discussed potentially removing certain board officer positions. You will all get a formal notice in your inboxes about those things. Okay. Any questions?
Jessica Morris.
Sorry, at the meeting, when is the appropriate time to make a friendly amendment to whatever actions may come in front of the board? I know they circulated by email and snail mail verbatim, but if we, as a board, we're going to vote on those. So when would the appropriate time to suggest an amendment be?
I think I may rely on a member who I think has the answer, but I would assume during the debate part of the procedure when the full board talks about it. So kind of like what happened last time with our 50-day notice period. So we had a bit of a discussion, and that's usually the perfect time to have a friendly amendment.
Thanks.
Thank you. To answer, it is during the parliamentary procedure would be during debate at the July 29th full board. So
Thank you. Any other
All right.
questions?
Okay. Can you, housing.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name's Adem Bria. I'm the chair of the Housing Committee. I'll keep it brief. We had a presentation from Ascendant. They're a local property manager and non-for-profit owner of properties in our community. They're also going to be handling NYCHA properties that are going through the PACT program. Essentially, PACT is a way for NYCHA to convert residents into Section 8, which unlocks federal funding that allows these properties to be rehabilitated and then run through property managers that are not affiliated with NYCHA. We did a walkthrough of one of these NYCHA that are going to be converted, Gaylord White houses. We saw a model apartment. I mean, it looked beautiful. The presentation was great. Ascendant was very forthcoming. Couple of concerns there are, though, are there have been audits done. I think Brad Lander did one, and some of these PACT conversions have seen an excessively high eviction rate. These property managers step in and then they start to try to sue and evict residents. That has, I think, caused some hesitance on some tenants that are in this process from wanting to kind of go through with it. But the thing is, it's not on a resident by resident basis. A property either opts in or doesn't. And if you're in a property that opts in, but you don't want to be a part of that program, and you refuse to sign a lease or whatever, they can technically eventually remove you from your unit. And that was a big concern at our meeting, and it's a concern that I definitely agree with. You're all free to ask me more questions. I will point out that we will be having a meeting. It's not an official housing meeting, but it'll be June 24th, 5:30 p.m. It'll be at the board office. This is regarding the ANCP program, which has some properties, not just in our neighborhood, but in other neighborhoods where these properties are supposed to be converted into home ownership for the residents that have lived there. This meeting will specifically be for a property at 2 East 127th Street. They've been in the pipeline for a long time. Essentially, me and other representatives of the board and our district manager will be present. We're not going to get our opinions involved so much as be a witness to what is said by HPD and then what is said by the tenants back and forth, because a lot of times we hear, oh, this was said, or this was said, or, HPD is like, oh, we didn't say that. And the tenants say that they did say that. We're hoping that by doing this, we can hold everybody accountable to what is agreed on and make sure that the tenants in that property that have waited so long for this actually get to see this finally happen. All right. Oh,
Questions, Nilsa and then Jessica Morris.
So I remember sorry. I remember when I first became chair, Xavier and I, we went to the Bronx to see a packed apartment, a rad apartment. And at the time, the developer who was doing it showed us a model apartment, and we had talked about evictions and the what were the possibility of people in arrears. And at that time, that developer was working really hard with the tenants, but also mentioned that while they were doing the project and they were in charge of the, the housing stuff, that NYCHA still had an oversight role, so that when tenants felt like they were being evicted for whatever reason or unfairly, or that they could appeal to NYCHA, and that NYCHA was actually looking over what the developer was actually doing at that time. That was many years ago. Can you speak to whether NYCHA still has that layer, so that, because technically they're still NYCHA properties, although as part of PACT and RAD, the developer is the one that is actually doing all the other stuff?
I believe they do, but I'll definitely confirm that. Just from the presentation as it was stated, though, that was not mentioned. It did. So that's why I said I have to double check on that. It could have just been the way the discussion went, but I will find out. But yeah, NYCHA still oversees these properties and still are part of NYCHA overseeing it. But they essentially, NYCHA doesn't have the money to rehabilitate or manage these properties anymore. And this was a way for them to fund that. There were questions asked why federal funding can get unlocked this way and not other ways. That's above my head a little bit there, but it was a good question. So, I mean, we're not just having one meeting on this. We're going to be staying on top of it. Even the model unit, right? It's beautiful, but this one was in senior housing. There was concerns that it was a regular bathtub and not a walk-in tub. During the walkthrough, we were told there were security concerns, and we actually saw a couple of them during our walkthrough. And then when we asked about the safety program and security that would be put in there, they said that they were getting a lot of tenant input. But then we asked, okay, were the tenants satisfied with your security program? And they're like, we think so. So that's interesting, but okay. Yeah. Thank you for the
All right.
question.
Jessica Morris, your question.
Thanks, Adem, for the transparency regarding the meeting with HPD. I think that is really helpful to have on the record. And just to follow up on the presentation, there were 2 points of consideration with the whole team that was there, NYCHA, Ascendant, and the managing company. One was with regard to consideration for some sort of partnership for a longitudinal study on how good the good they're doing potentially is. And the second one was about their potential interest in considering cashback for renters and engaging in some sort of program for that with their tenants. Was there any point of follow-up that you made? I believe Chris from Ascendant said he would be happy to marshal that amongst the team. Did you follow up with them or no?
So he said that I could forward any questions committee members had. So you're all welcome to send me any questions. I bombarded them with a lot of my own questions beforehand. I'm happy to ask any questions. Sometimes I forget, but you could forward me anything you want anytime, and I'll send it that same day. And if you want, I can include you on the email, or I could pass along the information. So I will follow up with them on those 2 things. All right.
Great. I'll send you a note and then you can pass it along.
Thank
Is that
you.
all right? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, one more question from Beverly.
Okay,
I
quick
know.
question.
I know.
What happened today when we were speaking to the elected officials from Serrano's office? They may mention that they putting in the budget a whole lot of money for NYCHA, not for systems, but for the apartments. I wanted to just make mention that, as a committee on the housing, that we look into whether or not it might be another option from PAC if they gonna put these billions of dollars towards NYCHA if Serrano get it put in the budget.
Yeah, we could talk about that off the record too, but thank you for bringing that up.
Okay. Thank you very much, Adem. Chris Cirillo from Ascendant has been very responsive, will continue to do so. And it was Betance Houses that Nilsa and I went to in the Bronx. Next up, we're going to have licenses and permits. Go ahead and go through, yes, Emery, and go ahead and go through the entire list. Number 13, we will address after we've gone through the action items, and then we'll address number 13 separately. Yes, we will afford him the opportunity, and after we've read through everything. So, a quick reminder to the board: I was just alerted that we have a hard out by 9:30, so I appreciate everyone's accommodation us meeting that. So, so thank you very much. So we'll be mindful.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I have the next 3 pages. And I just want to say thank you to my Vice Chair, Adem. He's been so helpful and so supportive while my time licensing, chairing licenses and permit. Okay, here we go. Number 1, La Amistad Pizzeria and Grill Inc. Renewal application for wine, beer, and cider license number 024023140279 for a restaurant located at 2067 Second Avenue, New York, New York 10029 on 106th Street. The committee recommends that this application be denied. A motion to deny was made by Carlos Diaz, second by Adem Brija, and passed unanimously. 2, Disfruti LLC, DBA Allison, new application for a sidewalk cafe for a restaurant located at 1651 Lexington Avenue, New York, New York 10029, 104th Street. The committee recommends that this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Adem Brija, second by Carlos Diaz, and passed unanimously. 3, United in the 19th, number 855760, street event, June 7, 2025, set up at 8, breakdown at 3 p.m., located on East 113th Street between 2nd Avenue and Dead End. Street closure is a full street closure. Stephanie Herrera is the applicant, sponsored by Office of Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala. The committee recommends that this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Carlos Diaz. Wanda Hopkins seconded the motion and passed unanimously. 4, DMX Family Day number 857877 is a street event, June 7, 2025. Setup is at 10, breakdown at 6, located on East 127th Street between Park Avenue and Madison Avenue. It's a sidewalk and curb lane closure. Applicant is Shani Herrera. Sponsors Office of Councilmember Yusef Salam. The committee recommends that this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Carlos Diaz, second by Wanda Hopkins, and passed unanimously. 5, HHFM East Harlem Market, number 852541, Farmers Market, Thursdays, July 2025, set up at 7, breakdown at 4, breakdown November 20th, 2025, 4 p.m., located on East 104th Street between 3rd and 2nd Avenue. It's a full street closure. Applicants Johan de Jesus. Sponsor Johan de Jesus. The committee recommends that this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Carlos Diaz, second by Wanda Hopkins, and passed unanimously. 6, HHFM Metropolitan Hot Market, 852538, Farmers Market, Friday, July 11, 2025. Set up at 7, breakdown November 21st, 2025 at 4 o'clock. Location 2nd Avenue between 97th Street and East 99th Street. It's a partial sidewalk closure. Applicant Johan de Jesus, sponsored by the Harvest Home Farmers Market, Inc. The committee recommend that this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Carlos Diaz, second by Wanda Hopkins, and passed unanimously. 7, SB Day number 824267, street event, July 12, 2025, set up at 9, breakdown at 6. It's located on East 122nd Street between 3rd Avenue and Lexington Avenue. It's a full street closure. Applicant is Brandy Walker, sponsored by Rain or Shine, Inc. The committee recommends that this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Adem Brija, second by Wanda Hopkins, and passed unanimously. 8 is 111th Street Old Timers Day, 827854. It's a single block festival. July 13, 2025, set up at 7, breakdown at 7 p.m., located at East 111th Street between 5th Avenue and Madison Avenue. It's a full street closure. Applicant is Wilfred Renta, sponsor 111th Street Boys Old Timer Stickball, Inc. The committee recommends that this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Carlos Diaz, second by Adem Brija, and passed unanimously. 9 is Music Speaks Festival, Inc., 852554 is an open culture, July 16, 2025, set up at 8, breakdown at 8 p.m., located East 106th Street between Lexington Avenue and 3rd Avenue. It's a full street closure. Applicants Duala Castillo, sponsors Music Speaks Festival, Inc. The committee recommends that this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Eden Brija, second by Wanda Hopkins, with Carlos Diaz present, not voting, and passed. 10, Ali BS, Stop the Violence, Feed the Community, Give Back with Art in the Park, Inc., 856738, street event, July 17, 2025, set up at 9, breakdown at 6, located on East 128th Street between Lexington and 3rd Avenue. Is a full street closure. Applicant is Shaunique Wolfak, sponsored by Art in the Park, Inc. The committee recommends that this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Carlos Diaz, second by Adem Breja, and passed unanimously. 11 is Harlem Family Outreach, 852168, street event, July 19, 2025, set up at 10, breakdown at 7. Locations, Fifth Avenue between East 119th Street and East 120th Street, full street closure. Applicant Sherry Dorzeler, sponsored by Faith Above Ministries. The committee recommends that this application be denied. A motion to deny was made by Carlos Diaz, second by Wanda Hopkins, and passed unanimously. Number 12, A Healthy You. Number 852986 is a street event, July 19, 2025, set up at 10 a.m., breakdown at 8 p.m. Location is East 123rd Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. It's a full street closure. Applicant is Swan Streety. Sponsors Chambers Memorial Baptist Church. The committee recommends this application be approved. A motion to approve was made by Carlos Diaz, second by Dan Brija, passed unanimously. I say 13?
We're going to discuss 13 separately, so please go to 14, and you can just read in, you don't have to read it verbatim, just the name, the number, and when the setup and breakdown of the street, just, you know.
So say that again, the name, the number, what it is, and
Yeah,
what else?
just we can, the name of the event, the date, the location, and.
And that's it.
Yeah.
No applicant or sponsor?
Oh, no, we don't, yeah, we can, it's on the screen right here.
Oh, okay, thank God.
So,
Oh my
so
God.
just so we can expedite it. So it's right there, the public record.
Where was I? So 14 is Jungle Gym 2025 858660, and this is July 25th, 2025. Set up at 9 a.m., breakdown at 5:30 p.m. Located on East 106th Street between Lexington Avenue and 3rd Avenue. Move to the next one.
Yep. Go
Okay,
ahead.
great.
It
Should have told me that.
it was approved. Just say if it was approved or denied.
Approved. The committee recommends to approve. 14 is Jungle Gym 2025 858660. July 25th. Did I just read that one?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. 15 Jungle Gym 2025 858651. It's August 15. No, this is another one. August 15, 2025. That's how I got confused. Sorry. August 15, 2025. Set up at 9, breakdown at 5:30. Located at East 116th Street between Lexington and 3rd Avenue, and this was approved by the committee. 16 Family Day 850120, August 1st, 2025, set up at 8 a.m., breakdown at 3:30 p.m., and located on East 127th Street between 3rd Avenue and Lexington Avenue, and this was also approved by the committee. 17 Campa Evangelista 851604, it's August 29, 2025, set up at 9 a.m., breakdown at 5:30 p.m. Location is East 115th Street between 2nd Avenue and 3rd Avenue, and this was approved by the committee. 18 Rehoboth Annual Back to School Festival, 861844, August 30, 2025, set up at 9:30, breakdown at 5 p.m., located on East 118th Street between Lexington Avenue and 3rd Avenue, and this was approved by the committee. 19 El Barrio Old Timers, 858679 is a August 31st, 2025, set up at 11 a.m., breakdown at 7 p.m., located on East 105th Street between Madison Avenue and 5th Avenue, and this was also approved by the committee. 20 Reese Family Event, 859791, September 13, 2025, set up at 9 a.m., breakdown at 5 p.m., located on East 104th Street between Madison Avenue and 5th Avenue. This was also approved by the committee. 21, the Mexican Independence Day Celebration, 848549, September 14, 2025, set up at 7 a.m., breakdown at 6:30 p.m., located on 116th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. And this was denied by the committee.
Okay.
I think I'm done.
Any questions before I entertain?
And thank you for that.
No, thank you. It's quite all right. You should go to auctioneer class, right? So what we're going to do, and for those new board members that weren't here last time, every time we have an action item, yes, and I am going to recognize you, Derek. Every committee action item is a motion that's already on the floor up for debate. When we have multiple like this, we bundle them. So I will entertain, and that will have a first, that main motion, and then a second, and then we will see if there's any debate. If no debate, we will go to a vote through affirmation or acclamation. Sorry. Okay. So seeing no questions, yes, Derek Stampone, you're recognized. Oh, could you go to the back, please?
I move to bundle items 1 through 12 and 14 through 21 to accept the committee's recommendation for those items.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Great. Thank you.
There, hold on. I got to repeat the motion real quick. Derek Stampone moves to support items 1 through 12 and 14 through 21 and accept the committee's recommendations for both approved and denied. And I will read them quickly into the record. Number 1 is approved, 3 is approved, 4 is approved, 5 is approved, 6 is approved, 7 is approved, 8 is approved, 9 is approved, 8 is approved, 10 is denied, 12 is approved, 14 is approved, 15 is approved, 16 is approved, 17 is approved, 18 is approved, 19 is approved, 20 is approved, and 21 is denied. Is there a second? Beverly, you said the motion. Okay. Any debate on the matter? Okay. We'll now take a vote. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstention?
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you. We will now go to 13. And would you like to speak to 13 and what happened? And then we will have the former sponsor come up and even it as quick as we can.
So 13, okay, I'll have it here. Café con Rumba, 856979 is a street event, July 19, 2025. Set up 8 a.m., breakdown at 10:30 p.m. Locations on 106th Street between 3rd Avenue and Lexington Avenue. It is a full street closure. The applicant is Johari Peralta, sponsored by James Gonzalez, and the committee recommended to approve this application. But then the sponsor, James Gonzalez, who's here, and he will speak to you guys on the matter, reached out to the board, community board, to Xavier, and sent out a letter explaining the reasons why we should deny this event. So, James.
Okay.
Anything?
I will, if there are no objections, I will allow the previous sponsor to speak on the matter since he was not there and suspend the rules on that matter. Okay, seeing no objections, James Gonzalez, you're granted the floor just to speak on the matter. Either or is fine. Right here is fine. Thank you. Huh?
Grab this. All right, that's better. Hi guys, I'm James Gonzalez. I'm one of the owners of La Fonda, formerly known as Fonda Boricua. Make a long story short, I wrote something, but I see all you guys speak from the heart, so I'm just gonna go with that. This street event was once discussed with me, but was never approved by me. Yes, I never was aware of what the date was going to be or what the details were going to be up until the last minute. I never submitted anything in that sense. The individuals that approached this have done 3 events at my restaurant with my approval, all been disastrous as a local business owner. As someone who's been a part of the community for the last 6 years, including one of the most important times during the pandemic, helped feed, 6,000 seniors on a daily basis, helped over 20 businesses stay open by granting them projects. One thing that I'm big on is making sure that the community is viewed and served correctly. This past event was probably the most disastrous event, leaving my restaurant in a horrible state afterwards, where I had to text the individuals to come clean up. And not only did they come angrily, but they also did a poor job. When I approached that, it was also met with more frustration on their part. Another issue was the way they spoke to my staff and my mother at the event, which was raising their voice and speaking very negatively. I'm not a person to tolerate that. I ended up recording through my cameras who have audio when I had to approach them and letting them know to never speak to my staff member nor my mother in that manner. And when I approached them in text, and I have that in text as well, they chose to justify their actions, which is inappropriate for a community. Other people in the community who have witnessed this have noticed that this is not going to be something that's good for a body, or let alone 106. I have neighbors that have made complaints about this. Even looking at this and seeing all the other events that were approved, everything is ending at a reasonable time. Their ending is at 10:30 p.m. because from what I've experienced with their event in my backyard was that this is more of a self-loathing. The other thing that was not made aware to me till last minute was the selling of alcohol that was sponsored. Alcohol that is sponsored is not allowed to be sold, but this was their way to gain additional income. That being stated, in addition to the 20 vendors that they increased to 40 something vendors, the continuation of how they present this is inaccurate. And to allow something like this to happen on 106 when we've had a lot of great events that has happened, even this one with the street that's on July 25th, the police event that happens with the community, the give back, those are events that are positive for the community. This is not going to be positive for the community. I can assure you that based on the 3 events. I've also ended up being negative each time the event was. And when I say negative, I'm not just talking revenue, I'm talking treatment to staff, lack of support to my team, or even lack of support to community. The vendors they had inside in this last event this Saturday went from 20 events to 24 events in my restaurant space, which is tight. Their turnout was 446 people from what they've announced on social media, but the truth is probably 10 people showed up. My restaurant literally made no money off of this, which I didn't care for. The money that I made was from our regulars, from our customers, from the people in the community that care. So I'm requesting that this gets denied and not be revisited. The individuals will continue to falsify, continue to use my name as they have done so far in the neighborhood to try to gain access to other businesses and other communities. It's a poor representation for what we're building, for what I believe you guys have built so far. So my request is to have this removed, and I no longer will be working with them nor sponsoring them or have any affiliation with them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Are there any board member questions? Michelle? And keeping mindful of the time, given that we have to be out by 9:30.
I have had the opportunity to eat in your establishment. Thank you. And I know how tight it can be if 400 and something people had shown up. I want to know what type of damage that they did. Is it damage that could have actually be cleaned up, or did they actually do some capital damage as well?
Capital damage. Like today, I went to the backyard for the first time because Sunday I was too aggravated to go back there after I found more trash. So tables, chairs broken. And then just like, I mean, I have to pay for I pay for sanitation, right? So I have to pay for the garbage. So they left garbage, additional garbage in the backyard that I wasn't aware of. So now I have to worry about rodents. If an inspector comes, I have to worry about them finding mice droppings or rat droppings back there. So it's like, it adds on. And then because I'm running a tight ship, I'm the one that's picking up, so I could not have to spend extra money paying my staff members to clean up after them.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Jessica Marsh, your question.
Two questions. Thank you. One, when did you first start engaging in the partnership with the applicant? And the second, how did you know that this was the right time in the process to come and kind of pull the plug? How were you informed that now is the time to do that?
Well, I reached out to our community members to make sure that I can figure out a way to dissolve this before it becomes more of a mess. When I first engaged with them, they came to me back in February when I was struggling with the restaurant. And they came from a side of, oh, we're here to help, we're here to help. And then the narrative continued to change along the way. And as I noticed it, at that point, I was a bit in a more vulnerable state. So I was, being, I guess, too kind-hearted to believe in people. And then even then I said, hey guys, you got to figure out a way you can compensate it, because I know what happens naturally is when people see a dollar sign, they start getting bothered by things, or they start viewing things differently. I had no idea they were charging vendors as well. They were charging vendors between $250 to $500 per vendor inside my restaurant. In addition to charging them, I mean, I wasn't even compensated from that percentage or anything. The fact that they were using the bar area to sell liquor in the backyard is also something that I was not made aware of. So yeah, had I known this and seen the signs earlier, I would have never ever continued with them on a second, third event. But again, I never ever gave them the right to use my name to sponsor this at all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So Ash, you have a question? Okay. So to walk it out, we have what was presented to the committee, and according to the testimony given here, is that there was a false presentation per the letter that was sent that he was not the sponsor, and it was a lie. So with that, yes, Amber. Yeah, you got. Yes.
So we approved because they submitted all the documents that we asked as a committee. So there was no reason for us not to approve it at the time. Until then, we were approached
Alerted.
by James and you know, Xavier.
Yeah. So the majority of time when we have events like this, there's not usually a hiccup when it comes to sponsorship and stuff like that. So again, yes, you have a
Echo
question.
Jessica's question, and how did you know how did you know that they had, like, who informed you that they had put this in your name and that it was about to get passed today and you should be here to present?
So I asked a community member, Anne-Marie.
All right. Thank you. So we had a motion that was sent by the committee to approve the event. So if we are to discharge this, it is to deny the committee's recommendation that this is what the body does. I will now entertain the floor. Yes, Asher. Yes, you do. No, it would deny it. The person would have to reapply with a new sponsor.
Motion to deny application. Oh, I cannot see up there. Hold up. Number 13. Does that count as a motion?
Okay, so,
Yeah.
all right. Asher Rodriguez has made a motion to deny the committee's recommendation on application number 13, Cafe Con Rumba, number 856979, street event, July 19th, 2025, 8 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. on East 106th Street between 3rd Avenue and Lexington Avenue, and in light of the new information provided to the body. Is that correct, Asher?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Yes. Yes. Is the applicant here? I don't know if the applicant has been contacted or not. Has the applicant been contacted, Anne-Marie, or is?
So what I know is that the applicant was contacted by Marlene to submit regarding the sponsor, to submit another sponsor, and that's what they did. But it was after we approved with James.
Okay, so we would not be able to support the current recommendation carried forth because there is a new sponsor and they would have to come and present to the body.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
And the reason why James came up to me and asked me, because they have been talking about it. She has been posting it that they were gonna have this event.
Mhm.
And he knows that I'm in the license committee, so he asked me, and I said yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's what we have as a motion on the floor.
So
You have a
right
point
now-
of clarification?
Yeah, so the motion right now is they're listed there with the old sponsor or the new sponsor?
They're listed there with the current, this is what the committee passed, and this is
With
what
the
we're
old
voting.
sponsor, but
Yes,
They submitted with a new sponsor.
yes, but that information has not been provided to this body for this meeting
For this
right now.
meeting, but
Yeah.
will we have to meet about that before the event?
If it times out, but again, they submitted it, but not in time for us to actually have it before this meeting tonight. So therefore, we're only voting on what was voted on in the committee. And because in light of this information, because he's no longer the sponsor, we can't necessarily go forward with that committee's recommendation.
The only reason
Oh.
I bring it up is because, respectfully, no disrespect, but you are here presenting on the one side, and they're not here to defend themselves. And right now, everything you're saying is shining a real bad light on them, and I'm sure they would have something to say about it if they were here. You were given the opportunity to come here and rebuttal, and they weren't. So that's where my questioning came from, not denying that they did all of those things and that you're saying, just want to make sure we clarify things because we have a lot of new committee members and that needs to be clear.
Of course. So can I jump in? So I know I keep being referred to as a sponsor, but I never proved that. There's nothing in text. There's no email of me refuting that. I'm happy to provide text messages. I'm happy to provide the data that I have or information that I have that proves that the information that was presented was never classified information, nor to myself. I believe in, so to your point, and I respect that, there are always three sides to the story.
Okay.
There's their side, the other person's side, and then there's the truth, which is why I try to document everything, I record everything, I keep it there. So if the committee needs be, I'm happy to take screenshots of how the interactions have been, dating back from when I first spoke to them, where in none of the conversations and there's been very little emails, everything been texts that have ever said, I'm willing to be a sponsor.
Okay.
Or did I approve any of this other fiasco that's been going on?
Okay, and we have a motion on the floor. David, you have a point of clarification, then we have a solution to recommend.
Just very quickly, you know, and following with Isaac, I think we would need both sides, so we do hear both sides of the story. But if we already have somebody saying they're not sponsoring something, their name was put on something, right? In my understanding, his name was put on something. He's here to say this wasn't his. Then we reach out and we ask, give us another sponsor, as opposed to why did you put somebody as a sponsor that is not sponsoring it? You know, I think it leads to another process or procedure or question is.
It is what we've resolved, and I just conferred with Angel, is we can give this individual an opportunity to present an executive tomorrow. And just like also to not land use, license and permits, they were not able to push forward the Borican Street closing because 2 members sit on the board and were present not voting. So it was not enough to carry with the bodies there in the room. So that will be on executive tomorrow as well. So we've found a solution, but yes, given the information, we would vote this down and we would entertain that conversation tomorrow. So that's how we can go through that. Thank you for the clarification. Yes, Jessica, because you wanted to, okay. Jessica Moore, so seconds the motion to deny the committees. Okay. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very
you all.
much. And if you would also like to attend our executive, you are welcome to as well virtually. All right, next up is Human Services. It is 9:10. On deck is Youth and Education, then Land Use.
So we had 2 motions, and I left my phone, so I can't read off the letter of acknowledgement. Actually wanted, I actually wanted to read off the letter of acknowledgement. Thank you, Ash, just for the sake of new committee members. But we had 2 motions. We had one, a letter of acknowledgement. Thank you, Ash. We had one, a letter of acknowledgement. A request, for a letter of acknowledgement for the reallocation of shares among the existing owners of SES Operating Corp. At the Harlem East Life Plan Help. So the reason I wanted to read it is because sometimes you'll see letters of recommendation, or rather, letters of support versus letters of acknowledgement. This letter is a letter of acknowledgement because they were, I don't want to say mandated, but strongly encouraged by Oasis to come before the committee whenever there is a change to the organization at all. So the letter reads, this letter serves as confirmation that Manhattan Community Board 11 has been notified by SES Operating Corp. Doing business as Harlem East Life Plan of the reallocation transfers of shares among existing owners of SES Operating Corp. Let me preface by saying one of the owners died. This is why they're reallocating shares. They're reallocating, they transitioned, forgive me. And in their transition, they are reallocating their shares amongst other folks in the organization. Second paragraph, notification was initially provided by email on May 8th, 2025 to the community board chair and manager, as well as the chair of the Community Board's Human Services Committee, myself. Representatives from SES Operating Corp. Accepted an initial invitation to present at May 12, 2025, Human Services Subcommittee monthly meeting. After the May meeting was canceled, we didn't make quorum. Joanne King, VP, Director, and Erica Donovan Estadas, Quality Improvement Manager and Compliance Officer, presented and were available for questions and discussion at the June 9th, 2025 Human Services Subcommittee. So this letter is a letter to acknowledge their presence at that meeting. This is not a letter saying we support anything. Just want to be clear about that so we don't have to go into long debates. This is just a letter of acknowledgement of their presence. Can we do this motion before we go to the next one?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, cool. So the motion was made by, I'm sorry, I can't. see
Robin
the screen.
Stration.
The motion was made by Robin Stration. It was seconded by Valerie Ponte, and it passed. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong motion. Excuse me. Robin Stration made the motion, and it was seconded by Marcel Budima. And it passed unanimously.
Okay. So everyone, this is a main motion on the floor. I'm going to ask if there's any debate. So imagine it's been first and seconded already. Is there any debate on the matter? Okay. So a motion to provide a letter of acknowledgement to the Bureau of Mental Health and NYC Department of Health and Mental Hygiene for the reallocation shares among existing owners of SES Operating Corp. doing business as East Harlem Life Plan with edits from CB11 staff was made by Robin Stration, seconded by Marcel Bendima, and passed unanimously. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Next action item.
Great. So the second action item we had was to allocate the human services funds, the $500 we get a year.
Pardon me, I'm so sorry, but please check the chat when you make these when you ask for us, because I wrote in the chat.
So did you abstain on that, Jewel?
That is correct.
Right. So one abstention, Jewel Jones. Thank you very much, Jewel. Thank you. I did not see your hand. Yeah, and just raise your hand if I miss it. I appreciate that. Going on with the, no, it's fine. This is how we do hybrid. This is what it is. We work together. Go on, carry on, please.
No, it's all good. So second motion was made to allocate the human services $500 towards the Open Streets Community Art and Wellness event, which is co-sponsored by Community Board 11, but organized by Another Choice Youth and Family Outreach, where I'm the Director of Community Initiatives. Before we take a vote on this motion, I want to read off the agenda, at least the list of events. So we got approved for Open Streets. We'll be out there 12 to 5 on Fridays for 6 consecutive Fridays from June 11th to August 15th. We are exploring the 8 dimensions of wellness. Thank you to everyone who helped us to get this passed for the community, and even the people, one person who abstained from it. We still love you, and you are invited to come out. So the 6 events are as follows. Remember, there are 8 dimensions of wellness, but we're going to cover this in 6 events. The first event, Friday the 11th, will focus on social and emotional wellness. So that's 2 dimensions of wellness. Event 2 will focus on physical wellness, and that is Friday, July 18th. July 25th, which is the third event and the 4th event, which is the 25th of July and August 1st, will both explore financial wellness, occupational wellness, as well as intellectual wellness. So those will have similar themes. Event 5, which is August 8th, will explore environmental wellness. And the last event will explore spiritual wellness, and that is our closeout event on August 15th. So that is the lineup for our Open Streets for this summer, and we do invite everyone to come out, and now we can entertain the motion. Oh, there was a motion made, and the motion was made by Robin, and it was seconded by Valerie Ponte, and it passed unanimous without one person present not voting, which is myself, because I can't vote on this.
Okay. A motion to use the Human Services Committee funds for the Open Streets events organized by Another Choice Youth and Family Outreach, made by Robin Stration, seconded by Valerie Ponte, and passed passed with Isaac Scott present not voting. Any debate on the matter? All right. With that, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Present not voting? Isaac Scott.
No abstentions.
Okay. All right. Jewel Jones abstains. Okay. All right, great, guys. We have Joel, could you please, do you abstain on that one? 23?
Yes, I do. Please check the chat as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I need to have it on you.
Yes, yes, verbally yes, in the chat, written yes.
Okay, I just need it verbally. Thank you very much. Yes, Anne Marie.
You mentioned that we tomorrow are gonna vote on Borinquen open streets. It's not Borinquen open streets, it's
Oh,
the health fair.
The health fair.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that correction. I appreciate that. Yes, it will be dealing with it. Is this all right, guys? We have got 13 minutes. So
I'll be quick because I don't want to be up here for long. For our youth and education meeting, we didn't have much on the agenda. The only thing that we had was we returned to our conversation about one green apple, and the committee decided that we weren't comfortable necessarily taking a position on it because there's not enough people on the committee who work specifically as teachers in schools, so we're not the main people using it. So we weren't comfortable coming up with an opinion for that. We spoke about a couple events that were happening in the community. Children's Aid had our play last week, which thank you to all the board members who I saw come out. The kids were so shocked to see so many people who they didn't know come. Also, there was two events in the community with the district in terms of awards. Like one was like a UFT award ceremony for like people who have reached like 1 year, 5 years in service. I think we had someone at one of the schools who reached 40 years of service, which don't know how you teach for that long. But and then also today, Lexington Academy, we had our Pride Day event. So happy Pride Month, everyone. We had pretty much the whole school participating. The teachers all had shirts. So yeah, lots of great stuff happening.
okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. Sure. All right, next is land use, landmarks, and planning. All right, Kenneth, and then next on deck is environment, open space and park, and finally public safety and transportation.
All right, folks, fill in for Jason. I'll be really quick. We talked about three things at our meeting: the MTA rezoning, the charter revisions, and the future of planning. For the MTA, again, we've heard a lot of discussion today. I won't add to that. But if you didn't get to ask questions tonight, you can submit questions to mn11@cb.nyc.gov. That will be forwarded to our committee discussion on July 9th. Next, for charter revisions, again, I won't add to that. We've talked about that quite a bit, but it will affect the way that we can opine on land use in our community. If you would like to submit testimony, you can submit that to a city charter revision town hall. That's on Monday, July 7th. At the Schoenberg Center for Research in Black Culture. You can also submit written testimony to chartertestimony@citycharter.nyc.gov. And that's it.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next is environment, open space and parks.
Yes, thank you. We had 2 action items. Connie Lee made a motion to provide a letter of acknowledgement for the preliminary design submission of the renovation of Rodale Community Garden to the NYC Public Design Commission. The motion was seconded by Michelle Wilshire Clement and passed unanimously. And then we had another motion that was made by Malik McCullough to support and sign onto the new Civitas letter to the mayor's office requesting funds to address the East River Esplanade project gap from 107th Street to 117th Street. The motion was seconded by myself, Rosa Diaz, and passed unanimously.
Okay, good. Wonderful. Number 24, Connie Lee made a motion to provide a letter of acknowledgement for the prelim design submission of the renovation of Rodale Community Garden to the NYC Public Design Commission. It was second. The motion was seconded by Michelle Wilshire Clement and passed unanimously. Any debate on the matter? Okay, seeing that there's none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Number 25, a motion was made by Malik McCullough to support sign on to the new Civitas letter from the mayor's office for funds to address the East River Esplanade project gap from 107th to 117th Streets. The motion was seconded by Rosa Diaz and passed unanimously. Any debate on the matter? Civitas? It's an environmental group, advocacy group. And yeah, so that's what it is. I can send you a link on their information. They're a good group that we have partnered with for years. It's an updated letter for that funding because there was a funding gap due to escalating cost. But originally when EDC came out, that first appropriation didn't only reach to the pier at 107th. So we're pushing and asking for them to continue the funding. EDC did not continue that commitment. And so that's why this letter is being asked for. Okay. All right. Any further? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Public safety? Huh?
So, yeah, just two things real quick. One, we're starting our parks tours this Saturday. Hopefully y'all can make it. It'll be up on the calendar and right on the letter. And then, oh, it's there. Okay, cool. And then real quick, because I just wanted to mention this real quick, whenever people are coming for support, letters of support, we try to give, a month in advance and try not to support right away just because it gives us time to deliberate. So for all the committees and your new committee members, try to, force that onto these different people that's coming up to us and asking us for things, because they're going to try to push us to actually vote for it right then and there instead of us taking time to deliberate for whatever whatever they're presenting. So I just wanted to say that, especially to the new board members.
All right. Thank you, Malik. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to thank my vice chair for going out.
Speak in the mic, please.
I wanted to thank my vice chair for going out and getting a lot of businesses' opinion on the corridor for 116th Street. We had the DOT as well as the MTA come in to our meeting once again to talk about 116th corridor. And so we have that open conversation and we want to hear your voices, and we especially about the bike lane that they want to put on Pleasant Avenue. We want to have more voices on that. And then I have to take my glasses off to read this. We had 3 motions. I'm just going to read these out. Don Sanders made a motion to request a change in parking regulations on East 126th Street between Park Avenue and 2nd Avenue from no standing from 7 to 10 a.m., no parking 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, to alternate side parking Monday, Thursday, and Tuesday, Friday, 8:30 to 10 a.m. The motion was seconded by Pascal Hanu and passed unanimously. In other words, we are a residential area there, no longer commercial. The other motion, Carlos Diaz made a motion to support the Perry Thomas Way street cone naming request for the northeast corner of 104th Street and Lexington Avenue. The motion was seconded by Pascal Hanu and passed with one objection of Valerie Ponte. They gave a great presentation and they are here if you want to ask questions afterwards. Carlos Diaz made a motion to support the Delcia Pagan Place street co-naming request for the northwest corner of East 107th Street and Lexington Avenue. The motion was seconded by Jewel Jones and passed with one present not voting, Hanu, and one objection, Ponte, and one abstention, Sanders.
Okay.
That's as fast as I can.
That is fine. I'm going to, so we have the first, number 26, Don Sanders made a motion to request a change in parking regulations on East 126th Street between Park and 2nd Avenue, no standing from 7 to 10 and no parking 10 to 7 p.m., 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, to alternate side parking regulations Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, 8:30 to 10 a.m. The motion was seconded by Pascal Honot and passed unanimously. Is there any debate on the matter? Okay. Seeing that there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Number 27, Carlos Diaz made a motion to support the Perry Thomas Way street co-naming request for the northeast corner of East 104th Street and Lexington Avenue. The motion was seconded by Pascal Honot and passed with one objection, Valerie Ponte. Any debate on the matter? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Valerie Ponte opposed? Isaac Scott opposed? Abstentions?
Yep.
Isaac Scott. All right, the motion carries. Number 28, Carlos Diaz made a motion to support Dilcia Pagon Place Street co-naming request for the northwest corner of East 107th Street and Lexington Avenue. The motion was seconded by Jewel Jones and passed with one present not voting, Hano, and one objection, Valerie Ponte, and one abstention, Don Sanders. Any debate on the matter? Don, you have your hand raised for debate on the matter?
No, I abstain. I was just putting it up.
Okay, I'll recognize you. Please raise your hand so I can recognize you when we call the vote. Seeing no
Thanks.
no hands raised for debate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You may unmute yourself if you're opposed. Valerie Ponte is opposed. Any abstentions? Don
Abstention, Dawn.
Sanders. Okay. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, Pascal? Present, not voting. Pascal, thank you. Okay, under new business, as we adopted the agenda, we don't have time, but I would like to acknowledge, like, we have run out of time, and per parliamentary procedure, when you run out of time, you have to table things to the next meeting. However, I want to give you a script of what we were supposed to have elections this evening to replace the treasurer role, but because we have to be out of here at 9:30, any further business gets tabled. That's just part of, yes, I would like you to step up and make an announcement. Nilsa Arama, our Elections Committee Chair, and then we will move to conclude.
So I know everybody wants to get out of here. And so what we were going to do tonight was we were going to take names of anyone who wanted to be treasurer and then do it tonight. Because we're not going to be able to do that, I'm going to send out an email with a nominations form, and you will return it back to cb11elections@gmail.com. And then we will take the election and do it for July. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will hold it then, so appreciate everyone's understanding. With that, given the time, if there's no objection, I will suspend calling the roll so we can get the staff out of here and get ourselves home. So if you can please make an expeditious departure, I would appreciate it. So if there are no objections to that, no business, no announcements. Okay. Now we are officially adjourned at 9:29 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Happy summer break.
Have a great summer, everybody.